Hey guys, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and returned as a cold killer in love? Konoha regrets everything. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share, and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let us start the story.
8 a.m. Konoha. Shizune stood outside the office, knocking on the door. She better not be sleeping again. She muttered to herself. When she heard no response, she quietly opened the door and found Tsunade sleeping again. Shizune let out a sigh. Things haven't changed much around here. She walked over to her desk and found that the paperwork from yesterday was still not complete. She gently shook her mentor awake. Tsunade-sama, you can't sleep like this. What would people say if they saw you? Tsunade stirred and answered groggily. They can kiss my Tsunade-sama. Shizune interrupted her, not wanting her to develop any more bad habits. It's time to wake up Tsunade-sama. Tsunade got up and stretched. She yawned and saw the pile of paperwork increasing. Is it me or is the paperwork breeding like rabbits? Shizune giggled. No, that's just from this morning. Tsunade groaned. I have half a mind to use a Kaiden jutsu to make me a small bonfire. She glared straight at the paperwork. If she knew it was going to be this much work, she would have retired ages ago. Shizune quietly excused herself and went back to work, leaving Tsunade to get ready for another hectic day. Tsunade yawned and leaned back into her chair. She noticed the daily newspaper lying around on her desk. She poured herself a cup of tea and started reading the newspaper. As she browsed through the newspaper, she saw something that made her drop the cup. The cup fell from her hand and hit the floor, shattering it into many broken pieces. Shizune heard something shatter and came rushing in. Are you alright, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade slowly shook her head. She immediately ransacked her drawers, throwing away scrolls and papers while searching for something. Shizune approached her desk to see what the big commotion was. She started reading the newspaper for something unusual but stopped reading when she saw Tsunade pull out a small piece of paper. The lottery? Did you lose again? Shizune shook her head in disappointment. You have to stop gambling, Tsunade-sama. A hokage with a debt the size of a mountain isn't good for someone of your reputation. No, it's not that. Tsunade stared at the ticket. Shizune, I just won the grand prize. Shizune gasps. This was bad. Very bad. Are you sure you won? Tsunade nodded her head. Shizune quickly grabbed the ticket and matched the numbers. It was unbelievable, she had really won. The last time she won something, Orochimaru was in town and Naruto almost died. It wasn't a pleasant memory for the both of them. What does this mean, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade sat back down, thinking. I don't know, Shizune, but be on high alert. Something's bad is brewing. Shizune nodded and went back outside. Tsunade looked towards the window. Why do I keep picturing Naruto? She saw the clouds passing over the sun, covering it for a brief moment. I hope you're okay, Naruto. Sir, we have spotted the target. Do you want us to approach him? Fox carefully studied their target. Why would he stay in the open like that? The target was using himself as bait. He was luring them out into the open, waiting for them. Too bad that plan wouldn't work. Fox had all the time in the world. Tiger, stay down. It's too soon to attack. Affirmative, sir. Moving back into position now. Tiger moved back into the trees, waiting for further orders. He heard some noises moving behind him and turned around. Eagle? A lean figure stepped forward, away from the shadows of the trees. Why aren't we going in there and just kill him? The target's just standing there. Eagle pointed to the man standing in the open yard. Before Tiger could answer, a voice answered the question for him. Because the place is carefully monitored and there are 3 guards at each end of the house, making it a total of 12 fully armed bodyguards. If you want to be stupid and walk into your future gravesite, be my guest. It'll be less paperwork for me to do. My question now is, why are you still here and not at your post? Fox appeared behind his team. Tiger and Eagle turned around. Sir, they both saluted. Forgive Eagle, sir, she's new to the squad. Tiger pushed Eagle away, hoping the captain wouldn't take it as an insult. Fox merely glanced at her and shushed away. Eagle watched the man she only knew as her captain disappear. Is he always like that? Tiger laughed. You'll get used to it. Eagle sighed. But he's so infuriating. I said get back to your post. I don't like repeating myself. Eagle turned around to see Fox standing in front of her. From her point of view, her captain looks kind of intimidating. She was taken by surprise and fell down. High. She struggled to get back up, and when she did, her captain disappeared in smoke. Cage Bushin? Her eyes widened behind her mask. Yeah, captains like that. Tiger shrugged and continued to monitor the estate. Eagle shushed back to her spot. He needs to lighten up. 30 minutes later. Eagle, Tiger, get ready. We're going in. You two are going in the back way. I'm taking the direct approach. Fox spoke through the headset. He waited 5 seconds before giving the signal. Okay, move in. Eagle and Tiger both took a deep breath before replying. Affirmative. The team consisting of 3 people, Fox, Eagle, and Tiger, ran in to complete a rank S assassination ordered by their cage. Screams and bloodshed erupted from the highly guarded mansion. The once guarded place owned by Kai Yen, a corrupted daimyo, was now empty. The life of a ninja is expected to be a short one. Ninjas are considered soldiers for their cages, willing to do and die for them without question. The best kind of soldiers are those that were willing to do whatever it takes to complete the mission, even if it means abandoning all your ideals just for this one moment. There are many paths in life, but yet, there is not a single path that a person can take which can be called the right path. The person known as Fox understood this. He understands the risks concerning the life of the ninja and knows that jobs like this one is strictly professional, not a child's game. Taiko, are we done here? Tiger asked as he walked into the room. Eagle shortly entered after him. The first thing she saw was over 20 dead bodies, all mutilated in one way or another. Heads were missing as well as other body parts. She started feeling noxious and quickly removed her mask to vomit. Fox turned around and glared at her. Tiger waved his hands in front of Fox, trying to calm him down. Easy, Taiko, she's new. Remember that. Eagle looked up and saw Fox looking at her. If you're going to vomit every time you see something like this, then get the hell off my team. I have no need for weaklings. Tiger turned away. He felt sorry for Eagle. He heard the captain was one of the meanest people on the force. Eagle put back on her mask and stood up. Was it really necessary to kill everyone? She looked around the room. You didn't need to kill every one of them. Fox whipped out a scroll and sealed the head of Kai Yen into it. In this job, there can be no survivors. Better get used to it. We're leaving. Fox started walking away and Tiger followed. Eagle stared at her captain. There were obviously no wounds on that man, and yet, there were evidence of a battle that took place here. Broken swords, blood spilled all over, and the captain didn't even get blood on his outfit. She was caught up in her little analysis that she didn't notice that her captain was standing by the door. Are you coming, or are you going to keep vomiting? Do it on your own time and stop wasting mine. Eagle snapped back to reality and hurried to catch up with her team. It was almost midnight when the team arrived back in Konoha. Eagle was too tired to continue. She looked at her other 2 team members. They looked like they just came back from a walk. Sir, can we stop for a minute or something? She looked up, hoping he would be lenient for once. Fox turned back and saw her leaning over, using her knees as support. How the hell did you manage to pass the exams like that? Either the proctors must have pitied you or you bribed your way through. Eagle growled at him. She was too tired to put up with this shit any longer. She was about to lunge at him when Tiger held her back. Calm down, he's always like this. Just don't let him get to you. He whispered into her ear. Fox walked up to the front gate. Katetsu, Azumo, are you guys there? Who goes there? A grouchy voice yelled back. It's Anbu Team Fox reporting back from a mission. Azumo immediately recognized the Anbu captain. He wasn't someone who you could just give a single glance to and forget. Fox was a person who could be labeled cold and dangerous and was known throughout Konoha. The villagers and ninjas alike knew and respected him as the Anbu captain. His enemies known to fear him as the Silent Storm. You wouldn't know where he was until you were dead. Just thinking about the man sent shivers down his spine. Azumo walked out of the box and bowed to him. Go right ahead, sir. The Hokage is expecting you. Fox walked past the bowing Chunin without saying a word. Katetsu sat there, just watching the scene play out. He shook his head. Only a handful of people knew who the captain was, and even less knew who was really under the mask. There has been rumors going on that Fox is on par with Itachi of Akatsuki, who is rumored to be on par with Jiraiya of the legendary Sanins. He always got a kick out of watching Fox do his job. He gives off the silent, creepy feeling, but yet, at the same time, it felt cool knowing that Konoha has someone this strong serving under their Hokage. Fox looked at his team. Tiger was right behind him while Eagle was slightly lagging behind. He shook his head. Both of you are dismissed. Get out of my sight. Tiger nodded and began to walk away, dragging Eagle with him. Fox shunned out of sight, with one destination in mind. When Fox disappeared, Eagle gave him the finger. What the hell is with that guy? It's like he got a stick up his ass. Tiger busted out laughing. Captain's been like this since he enlisted 4 months ago. Eagle gritted her teeth. God damn it. I hate him more than I hate the demon. If I had my way, both of them would have been dead by now. She gripped her knuckles and slammed the wall, causing some rubble to fall off. Tiger stayed back and observed her behavior. He shook his head. He gave us the night off. I'm going back to relax. I suggest you do the same. He disappeared, leaving her alone. Eagle cursed the day she joined his team. She punched the wall one last time before disappearing as well. Fox walked through the hollow hallways of the tower. The night winds made the atmosphere a bit chilly. Fox didn't mind the cold, it was something that he liked. It was a refreshing feeling. He walked up to the hokage's door. It was wide open. Tsunade always left it open because no one dared to walk in unannounced, everyone except a selected few. The only time it would be closed is if she was sleeping or in a meeting. Fox stepped into the room and saw her furiously scribbling on the paperwork. When she didn't acknowledge his presence, he let out a cough. Tsunade looked up from her paperwork and saw Fox standing before her. Fox reporting in from a completed mission Hokage-sama. Tsunade got up from her chair and stretched. She let out a yawn before signaling Fox to close the doors. When Fox closed the doors, Tsunade took out a bottle of sake. So I take it your mission was successful? Fox nodded his head. It went off without a hitch. He stood there, awaiting his next order. Tsunade took a sip of her sake. You know, you can remove your mask when it's only the two of us. Fox stood there, not making a movement. I don't feel like it, Hokage-sama. Tsunade gave him an angry look. Maybe you didn't hear me. I wasn't asking you if you felt like it. I'm ordering you to. Fox made no attempt to remove the mask. Tsunade sighed. Please take it off, Naruto. Fox sighed before giving in. He lifted his hands up to his mask and slowly removed it. He opened his eyes and looked straight at Tsunade. Hello Tsunade-sama. Tsunade looked at the boy. The cheerful boy she once knew was gone. His body became toned. You can see the muscles perfectly on his arms and chest. His face has lost most of its baby fat and it was no longer the face of a young teenager, it was the face of a handsome young man. Ever since he joined the anbu ranks, he has undergone a complete transformation. No one would mistake him for the same brat he was years ago. She looked down at her sake saucer and then at Naruto again. Ah, screw it. She threw the saucer into the wall and started drinking from the bottle. Naruto, have a seat. Naruto approached her desk and sat down in a chair. I will have the report to you within the hour. What is my next mission, Tsunade-sama? She put down her bottle before sitting back down. Naruto, I think you're working too much. Slow down and enjoy life. Go out and get yourself another girl. Tsunade stopped herself in mid-sentence, realizing what she was about to say. Naruto sat there, showing no emotions whatsoever. Tsunade heard about the split between Naruto and Sakura. She heard it through the local grapevine, which they heard it from Ino herself. She's been meaning to ask Naruto for what really happened between the two of them, but whenever she tried looking for Naruto, he was always out on a mission. Naruto, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Naruto shook his head. Don't worry yourself about it. It's nothing. Tsunade took another sip of sake. Want to talk about it, Naruto? She was carefully studying his facial expressions. So far, she found out that he was like a statue, unable to change his emotions. It was true that he changed. He was no longer the social and loud-mouthed brat he once was. He was now embarking on missions like they were going out of style. When she got no response from Naruto, she sighed. Listen, Naruto, I'm worried about you. Hell, you even got Jiraiya to worry about you, and that man never worries about anything except his books. Naruto dropped his head. Naruto hesitated for a minute before continuing. Found out that we weren't exactly right for each other. Naruto took his time, trying to figure out what was the best way of telling her without reviewing too much. In his mind, he was replaying the scenes as if it was a broken record. He couldn't forget it, no matter how hard he tried. Flashback. 5 months ago. Naruto was someone who you could have considered the happiest man in the world. Nothing could have brought him down. Sakura and him was officially a couple of 2 months now and nothing could spoil his mood. He had a date with Sakura tonight to celebrate their anniversary. Each time he looked into her eyes, he would always see the happiness that he brought to her world. What he didn't know was that everything was about to change. Azuma laughed quietly about the relationship that Tsunade and Naruto had. Only Naruto dared to speak to her like that in that tone. Well, she also said that if you don't come, she's closing down the ramen stand and banning ramen from Konoha. What? Naruto yelled at the man. Azuma covered his ears. When he looked back up, Naruto was gone, but you could see a pile of dust that the boy left behind. He chuckled to himself. Same old Naruto. Oba-chan, you better not touch the ramen. Naruto shouted as he barged into the room. Before he could say anything else, Tsunade hit him over the head with her fist. I thought I told you not to call me that, Naruto. She glared at the boy. Naruto rubbed his head before glaring back. Shikamaru let out of a little cough. Seems like they forgot that I'm also in here. How troublesome. Tsunade snapped back into reality and sat back down in her chair. Naruto followed her over and stood alongside Shikamaru. Hey Shikamaru, how's Tamari treating you? Shikamaru let out a sigh. Same old, same old. Women are just too troublesome. The boys turned back around when they heard a cracking sound. What was that, Shikamaru? Tsunade stared the young Chunin in the eye. Nothing. She nodded her head before opening a folder. I'm sending you two, along with a team, on a rank S mission. Yata. Naruto yelled out. You guys are leaving tonight. Naruto stopped jumping up and down when he heard the news. Tonight was supposed to be his night. Can it be tomorrow, Oba-chan? Tsunade gritted her teeth. Only a few more hours until she gets rid of him. She kept telling herself in her head. No, it has to be tonight because we have gotten word that Sasuke is in an isolated town just north of here. As I recalled, you wanted to be in this mission. Naruto quieted down. He stared hard at the ground before looking up. That's right, I have to bring him back. He nodded his head. So who else are we going with? Tsunade threw the file at Shikamaru, who opened it and read the information. Neji, Kiba, Shino, Lee and Choji. Naruto smiled. It's time to bring our lost buddy home. 3 days later, the special convoy team came back into the village, all bruised and battered up but still alive. They had engaged in battles with Orochimaru's new and upgraded Sound 4 along with Sasuke and Kabuto. It was not an easy fight, each of them considered themselves lucky for winning the battle. Naruto had it worst. The battle between him and Sasuke left him in a near-death state. Shikamaru witnessed the entire battle. Sasuke shoved a Chidori through his chest while Naruto barely recovered from that and knocked Sasuke out with a Udama Rasengan. Shikamaru then had the luxury of dragging them back with his Kagemane no Jutsu. Naruto woke up about halfway through the trip and carried Sasuke back on his own. When he arrived back into the village, every medic in the village rushed to meet the team. Sakura hurried through the crowd, pushing people out of the way. He had expected her to give him a hug when he returned, but she pushed him out of the way and went to work on Sasuke. Naruto figured Sasuke needed more medical attention than him, so he let it slide, but as time went on, when he went to see Sakura, she was always busy with Sasuke. It was a week later when he walked into the hospital room and overheard their conversation. So Sakura, would you like to have dinner with me tonight if you're not busy? Naruto laughed in his mind. She wouldn't do that. She knows that I was going to pick her up and take her out to dinner tonight. Of course, Sasuke-kun. He couldn't believe what was happening. He continued to listen to their conversation. Are you sure? I mean, Naruto's been here waiting for you a lot. Are you guys going out or something? It's not really like that. Naruto's heart shattered into a million pieces at that point. He began to walk away quickly, not caring where he went. He bumped into Shikamaru and mumbled an apology while running out. Later that night, Naruto stayed in his apartment, fiddling with the necklace he was supposed to give Sakura. He was not in the best of moods and he already cried himself out. There was nothing left to cry about. He heard a knock on the door, slowly got up and wondered who it was. When he opened the door, he saw Sakura standing there nervously. Hi Naruto, can we talk? He nodded his head and walked outside with her. So talk, Naruto said without looking at her. Sakura took a deep breath and hoped for the best. Naruto, I think we should break up. I need some time to myself to concentrate on my work. Naruto laughed to himself. You mean to study Sasuke? He stood up and closed his eyes. Okay, if that's what you want. Naruto stared at her for a second, looking into her eyes to see if she was under a spell or something. When he found nothing, he sighed. Sakura took one last look at him before leaving. I'm sorry, Naruto. Naruto watched her as she walked away. Naruto walked back into his apartment and drowned himself in sorrow. It was the next day when he saw Sakura and Sasuke in their regular training field, holding hands and lying next to each other. Naruto gritted his fist and left the area as quickly as he can. It was also the same day his whole world changed, where he enlisted in Anbu and quickly climbed the ranks into becoming the captain. Flashback end. You know I'm always here if you want to talk, Naruto. We all care about you, me, Shizune, Iruka, Jiraiya, Kakashi, all your friends. Tsunade looked at the boy. She couldn't help but feel sorry for him. The boy has been through a lot and there will still be more troubles to come. She rarely saw the boy anymore, he was always busy with this and that, never showing up for any social events. She decided that it was time for action. Maybe she can bring the old Naruto back. Naruto, as for your next mission, it's ranked SS. If you accept, I'll go into details with you right now. Naruto's ears perked up when he heard that it was ranked SS. I accept the mission. Tsunade grinned. Your mission is to act as a regular civilian for the next 3 months. Consider yourself on a vacation, Naruto. Naruto frowned. Is this some kind of a joke, Tsunade-sama? I'm not laughing here. Tsunade glared at the boy for his rude outburst. Naruto caught on and calmed himself down. I do not see the logic behind your thinking, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade smiled at the boy. It's called relaxation. Trust me, you'll like it. Now get out of my office and start your rank SS mission. She started giggling as Naruto frowned, wondering what to do. He decided that he would think about it over some bowls of ramen. Naruto bowed his head and walked towards the door. Good night, Oba-chan. Tsunade's head quickly picked up to look at the boy to see if she really heard those words, but when she looked towards the door, it was already closed. He's back, sir. Should we begin now? A ninja kneeled in the middle of a dark room. A mysterious figure appeared before the kneeling ninja and nodded his head. Begin the operation immediately. Make sure to do this right or everything we planned up to this point will be for nothing. Right away, sir. The ninja disappeared into the shadows and the mysterious figure started laughing. It's only a matter of time now. Oi, old man, 3 bowls of miso please. Naruto shouted out his order before sitting down at the counter. Tucci walked out from the back. Oh, it's you, Naruto. 3 bowls coming right up. Tucci went back into the back and prepared the noodles. A few minutes later, he came right back out with the 3 bowls of miso ramen. Naruto looked hungrily at the ramen. Tucci chuckled as he watched his best costumer rapidly eat it. Slow down, Naruto, or you'll end up choking. Naruto finished his first bowl and slowed down. Wefe fsafume? Tucci stared at him. It's rude to speak with your mouth full, boy. Didn't I teach you any manners? Naruto quickly swallowed the noodles before asking his question again. I'm sorry. Where is Ayame-chan? Oh, she's out on a date with some boy. Tucci watched the boy finish off his bowl. How can this boy eat so much ramen and yet still remain thin? It was a mystery the way he ate. Do you want any more, Naruto? Naruto shook his head. I have to turn in tonight, old man. I'll stop by tomorrow. Tucci nodded his head and accepted the money that Naruto put down. Just as Naruto walked out of the bar, an explosion rocked the area, causing Tucci to drop the plates. Old man, are you okay? Naruto ran back inside to check up on the old man. Tucci slowly pulled himself up, shaking his head. Yeah, I think I'll be okay, Naruto. Naruto gave the old man a quick look over before nodding goodbye. When Naruto stepped back outside, he was stopped by 4 anbu personnel, each standing there with their arms crossed. Anbu, short for Ansatsu Senjutsu Tokushu Butai, stood for the village's security task force. They are the elite of the elite, handling assassinations and high-risk missions to other countries. They are under the direct service of the Hokage. What can I do for you gentlemen at this hour of the night? The anbu with the dog mask threw a fast punch that caught Naruto off guard. The punch sent him flying back into the counter of the ramen bar. Tucci came to see what the commotion was about. What's going on here? Why are you beating on him? Stop right this instant. I will not allow fighting in my restaurant. Dog ignored the man and stood in front of Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, you are under arrested for acts of terrorism against Konoha. For destroying the Konoha hospital and killing 50 people in your little act. Naruto looked up at the man, with shocked eyes. What the hell are you talking about? I was here when the explosion occurred. Yes, I can vouch for him. He was here eating ramen when it happened. Itachi quickly defended his loyal customer, the son that he never had. Shut up, you demon lover. The anbu with the cat mask retorted back. Naruto got up and looked at the 4 anbu. Well, you got the wrong guy. I didn't do it, so leave me alone. Naruto pushed his way past the anbu squad but stopped when Cat caught his arm. You are coming with this demon or there will be trouble. Naruto quickly reversed it and threw him away. Don't touch me. I don't like it when people touch me without permission. Naruto turned his head and saw the other anbu getting ready to attack. Cat quickly jumped back up and tackled Naruto from behind. Itachi stepped in when he saw Naruto getting tackled. Get off him this instant. He pushed the anbu off Naruto and was about to help Naruto up when the person in the wolf mask punched him in the stomach, sending him to the ground. Itachi coughed some blood out and was breathing heavily. Stay out of this fight, you demon lover. Wolf spat out venomously. As Wolf turned around, he caught a fist to the face, causing him to stagger back and to comfort his broken bloody nose. Naruto appeared next to Itachi and helped him up slowly. Are you okay, old man? Itachi smiled weakly at Naruto. I'll be fine. Naruto nodded his head before turning his attention to the other anbu. Cat was checking up on Wolf's condition while the others stood in front of them. Your captain would have been ashamed of you guys for hitting on defenseless civilians. Naruto stated as he stood in front of Itachi. Dog laughed. The captain would have loved to beat your ass down, demon. Be glad he isn't here to soil his hands on some demon filth. Naruto moved the ramen chef over to the chair before turning his head. You can accuse me of all the bullshit crimes you want, but when you guys involve innocent people in the fight, you guys just crossed the line. Naruto disappeared out of sight. The team of anbu looked all around. Cat looked around, preparing to take out the demon with one blow. He heard a whisper in his ear. How the hell did you make it into anbu? He turned around quickly to find no one there but felt someone pulling him down. He out a scream as he tried to pull himself back up. Dog saw his teammate get dragged underground. Cat, the other members ran over to the spot where their teammate vanished. Damn you, demon, come out and fight us. Wolf screamed into the air. Are you sure you guys are part of anbu? Genins, give me a better challenge. Naruto walked out from the shadows. Don't look down on us, demon. Naruto's eyes quickly turned around to see Crow behind him. Naruto didn't know who Crow was, but he knew he was good enough if he was able to sneak up behind him. Crow quickly brought the ninjakin down on Naruto. Naruto barely jumped away in him. He looked down to see several cuts on his orange shirt. You son of a. That was my favorite shirt. Naruto went through some hand seals and took a deep breath. Kaden. Karyu Enden. A huge fire dragon appeared from Naruto's mouth and charged straight for the defenseless anbu. Crow's eyes widened as he saw the size of that dragon. Oh shit, I'm screwed. Wolf quickly went through some hand seals to save his captain. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Naruto turned around in time to see a water dragon coming towards him. He jumped away and saw the water dragon charging straight for his fire dragon. Both of these mighty dragons destroyed each other and produced steam that covered the area. Crow quickly formed some hand seals and took a deep breath. Futon. Daitopa. He let out a breath of wind that cleared the area of steam. The team of anbu saw Naruto just lying there on the ground, not moving. Did we get him? Dog turned his head to ask his team for their opinions, but when they all shrugged, they moved in as a team. They slowly approached the body, not sure of what to make of the scene. When they got near Naruto, the body disappeared in a puff of smoke. Blundering idiots. Your captain would have been crying if he saw this battle. They quickly turned around to see Naruto finishing up the last hand seal. Doden. Yomi Numa. The ground quickly turned into a swamp, preventing anyone from escaping. You guys aren't worthy enough to be an anbu. Tell Cat I said hi when you guys see him. Naruto walked away as the rest of anbu sank into the ground. Naruto quickly leapt away before the entire anbu division came after him. He ran back to his apartment but found more anbu there. He turned around and disappeared into a corner. Naruto walked into a narrow alleyway with a dead end. He moved himself into a corner and just sat there, wondering what was going on. What the hell is going on here? I know I didn't blow up the Konoha hospital. Many thoughts were racing through Naruto's mind. He looked up when he heard someone knocking over a garbage can. If you take one more step into this alleyway, I'll kill you in over 15 ways. He let out a small growl. He was not in a mood for more of this bullshit right now. Naruto? The voice called out. Naruto recognized that voice. Shizune-san? He saw the shadow of the figure slowly approaching him. Shizune walked towards him slowly, making sure it's the real one. It's me, Naruto. Naruto took out a kunai and held it where she can see it. How did you know I was here? Shizune saw the kunai and stopped advancing. Tsunade-sama saw your location through her crystal ball. She needs to talk to you quickly. Naruto nodded his head. As Naruto got up, Shizune noticed the blood stain over his clothes. It's not my blood, Naruto quickly answered, before Shizune started asking too many questions. The two quickly shushed towards the Hokage tower. Naruto entered through the window while Shizune entered through the door. Tsunade heard the door open and wondered who it was. Naruto? Right behind you. She quickly turned around to see the boy leaning by the corner. She then turned right back around to see who it was by the door. She let out a sigh of relief when it was only Shizune. Thanks, Shizune. Shizune quickly closed the door and entered the room as well. Tsunade took a quick glance at Naruto. Naruto, what in the world happened to you? I was attacked by Anbu and now they're currently disposed of. Naruto said in a cold tone. Tsunade shrugged off the tone. So what happened, Naruto? She looked at him. His clothes was a mess and he looked like he'd been through hell. Naruto shrugged. I don't really know. Tsunade massaged her temples. Naruto, if you don't tell me, I can't really help you. Did you or did you not blow up the Konoha hospital? Naruto glared at her. Do you really believe that I would do something like that? Tsunade flopped down into her chair. No, but there are several key eyewitnesses that saw you entering and leaving as it exploded. The council is going to have a field day with this, Naruto. They have been looking for an excuse to execute you and now they may have the right reason. The two women looked at Naruto. He stood in his corner quietly, making no signs of conversation. Just tell me what you were doing, Naruto, and I'll help you out in any way I can. Naruto opened his eyes and stared at the door. The door busted open and the room soon filled up with root members. Danzo casually walked in. Thank you for capturing the fugitive Hokage-sama. Tsunade gritted her teeth. What the hell are you doing here? Danzo smiled. Why, to capture and detain the killer, of course. We received word that he was making his way up here and I thought he was going to kill you as well, Hokage-sama. Tsunade slammed her fist down on the table. This is my room and you're intruding. Leave now or I'll throw you and your root unit out. Danzo continued to stand there. Tell me you're not housing a wanted fugitive, are you now, Hokage-sama? The council won't like this when they hear that their Hokage is siding with the demon. How dare you? Tsunade yelled out. She glared at the man. She knew he had a point. She was already in trouble for having Naruto here and she was risking everything if she let him get away. Tsunade sighed. Fine, take him away, Danzo, and I want a meeting with the council now. Shizune's eyes widened in surprise. What? Tsunade-sama, you can't be serious. Danzo smiled. As you wish, Hokage-sama. Naruto stared at the root unit. He doesn't know much about them and he could sense that they were all trained to kill on command. He could escape now, but that would cause the entire village to be after him. Take him to the Rank SS Prisoner Center. His eyes widened when he heard Tsunade spoke of that. The Rank SS Center was one of the most unique and dangerous holding center there is in Konoha. What? Naruto yelled out. He began to struggle, which caused the root unit to hold him back. Take him away. Tsunade sighed and pointed towards the door. Danzo smiled. You heard your Hokage. Do it. Naruto shot Tsunade a cold glare which Tsunade noticed but didn't respond. She was too busy convincing herself that this was the best thing to do. Shizune, gather everyone now. Shizune nodded and disappeared. Tsunade watched as Naruto was taken away from her office. She started to break down in the middle of her office, hating herself for what was about to come. 30 minutes later. What the hell do you mean he's going to be executed at dawn? Tsunade brought her hands down to the table. She glared at the Council of Elders. You have no goddamn proof that Naruto was responsible for the explosion. We have our own eyewitnesses as well as sufficient evidence that shows him being responsible. Tsunade glared at the person who spoke up. Kaharu returned an equally strong glare. If I didn't know any better, you guys were out to get him. Homura coughed. The clan heads have also came to a unanimous decision that he is to be executed for his actions. We have lived with the demon long enough. He is a liability to the village and everyone here. This meeting is over. Tsunade's eyes widen. What? I'm the Hokage here. I didn't say this meeting was over. Kaharu stopped and turned her head. You're just a political figurehead. You don't have enough power to overturn the council's decision. She closed the door on her way out, leaving Tsunade to her own thoughts. Tsunade stared at the door, wishing that she could have bashed their heads in. Oh my god, Naruto, what have I done? Get up, you dirty demon. It's time for your trial. The guard kicked the bars, awakening Naruto. Naruto stirred for a bit, before rolling back on his side. Demon spawn, don't make me come in here. The guard took out a metal rod and started smacking the bars, disrupting Naruto's slumber. He didn't get any sleep the night before. The guard took pleasure in making his stay miserable and he didn't get any food. He was pissed off at his location. He didn't have a bed and had to make do with the cold dirty floor, a demon hater guard, and all the demon haters in the village. Go stuff your face, you insolent fly. The guard's face turned red before picking a rock off the floor and throwing it at Naruto. Naruto felt something hitting him in the head. He stood up and glared at the guard. He ran and kicked the bars, scaring the guard. The guard saw Naruto approaching and tripped. Naruto started laughing. Ah, did I scare the big scary guard? The guard got up slowly. Laugh now, demon. I'll have the last laugh when I see your bloody body hanged. He signaled the other guards to come and get Naruto. Naruto sighed. He believed that Tsunade will get him out of this mess somehow. 1 hour later, Naruto was blindfolded and led around. He was all tensed up. Being blinded and being led around by people who wanted nothing better than to just kill you would make anyone tense up. He felt himself walking up the stairs and onto a platform. He heard the whispers and hissing coming from voices which he could assume were the villagers. His blindfold then came off and he took a look around. He was surprised to see that he was on a stage set in downtown Konoha. It looked like the entire village was there for his trial. Naruto walked up to a panel of judges, consisting of Hiashi Hyuga, Homura, Kaharu, Danzo and Tsunade. They looked at him with a cold glare, with the exception of Tsunade, who didn't look him in the eye. Kaharu cleared her throat, signaling for silence. Naruto Uzumaki, you are here today because of your crimes against Konoha. You have ridiculed the village with your pranks since your genin days and now you have taken it to the next level. You have blown up the Konoha hospital, killing the patients inside. Have you no shame? The crowd started booing him and throwing fruits and tomatoes at him. Kaharu again signaled the crowd to quiet down but was pleased with the crowd's reaction. I didn't blow it up. Naruto yelled back. I wasn't even near that goddamn hospital. Hiashi stood up. Enough, let us continue with the trial. Naruto Uzumaki, you are accused of the destruction of Konoha Hospital and the deaths of patients. How do you plead? Naruto gritted his teeth. This was ridiculous. I plead not guilty. He would have to play their game for now. He looked at his surroundings. Anbu and rude units everywhere as well as Junins and Chunins just standing around, watching the so-called trial. Hiashi stood there, if he was slowly judging the boy. Can you call your first witness to the stand? Gladly, Naruto retorted. As the trial continued, Tsunade sighed in her seat. There was no way for Naruto to win this trial. Everyone is set to see the demon dead. Why aren't you doing anything, Tsunade-hime? Tsunade recognized that voice. It was a distinct yet familiar and comforting voice. Jiraiya, things aren't look great for Naruto. Jiraiya looked at the boy. Yeah, I know. Why the hell aren't you doing something? Tsunade sighed. They have me at a cliff, Jiraiya. I can't do anything or I'll be considered a traitor as well. Like Naruto would have given a damn? Jiraiya shot back. He was disgusted with the way things were being ran. This wasn't a trial, it was an excuse to publicly humiliate the demon. There was no hope for Naruto. He was up against 4 of the most ignorant people ever to walk this planet. He silently stood next to Tsunade to watch the trial. Even him, the great hermit, can't do much to help Naruto. The kid will have to use every trick known to man to pull off this last stunt or else it will really be his last. I called Tucci, the ramen chef from the Ichiraku ramen bar. He was there when the explosion occurred. Tucci approached the platform and stood in front of the judges. Hiashi cleared his throat. So Tucci, how long have you known the Dem Air Boy? Hiashi corrected himself and waited for the answer. Tucci took his time answering. I known him all of my life, sir. Hiyashi stood up and looked at Tucci as if he was trying to get something out from the man. Then you know who he is? Of course, he's my best customer. He even protected me from the anbu when they came to get him. Tucci replied with a smile. The village was always against the boy. This was his way of showing Naruto that he wasn't alone in this cruel world. What did he do to the anbu that was sent to retrieve him? Tucci thought for a second. Well, first, they asked him to come for a crime he didn't commit, but he refused, and they started calling him a demon, and then they attacked him when he didn't comply with their orders. Hiyashi smiled. I see, so he resisted an arrest because he had something to hide? Naruto scowled at Hiyashi. That man was twisting words and explanations to his benefit. Tucci was surprised. No. The arrest made no sense. The boy was eating ramen in my shop when the explosion happened. There was no way it could have been him. Were you with him the entire time? Tucci thought some more. Well, no, I had to go and cook something, but the rest of the time, I was there. Hiyashi smirked at Naruto. There we have it. The boy could have created a cage bushin and sent it to attack the hospital in your absence. Thank you for your time, Tucci. Tucci looked shocked at the Hyuga head. He was about to say something but stopped when he was escorted off the platform. As he passed Naruto, he gave him a small smile. I'm sorry, Naruto. Naruto shook his head. It's okay, old man. Thank you for being here. Tucci walked off the stage. Naruto turned his attention back at Hiyashi. You conniving bastard. How dare you twist the story around? Naruto started to leak out some killing intent. You're in my house now, Uzumaki. I call forth Danzo to the spotlight. Naruto glared at the man who took his time walking onto the stage. I'm told that you have evidence to show that Naruto was the one responsible for this? Danzo nodded his head and proceeded to call his eyewitness. Danzo cleared his throat before facing Naruto. I call forth Sasuke Uchiha to the stand. Naruto's eyes widened as he heard the name. Sasuke was the last person he would have thought to be on the stage. Sasuke walked up to Danzo and Hiyashi. Sasuke Uchiha. Where were you on the night when the hospital exploded? Sasuke took a deep breath before answering. I was walking home with Sakura when it happened. We were a block away from the hospital when we saw a window shatter and someone jumped out. I immediately activated my Sharingan and recognized the man. Naruto stared at Sasuke. He couldn't believe that Sasuke was turning against him. Who is this man, Sasuke? Sasuke took another deep breath and pointed at Naruto. It was him, sir. He was wearing the same outfit that he is wearing now. What? Naruto shouted. Stop this bullshit. You know it wasn't me, Sasuke. Naruto shrugged off his guards and walked up to Sasuke. If this is some joke, Sasuke, I'm not laughing. Playing with people's lives is sick. Naruto stood in front of Sasuke's face and held him up by the collar. The crowd started screaming. You know it wasn't me, you bastard. Hiyashi immediately took action. Someone contain him now. Naruto was pulled back by 5 anbu. The crowd started chanting death to the demon. Hiyashi raised his hand to silence them once more. How can you be sure it was Naruto, Sasuke? Naruto is a master of the cage bushin and used it most effectively against me when he was fighting to take me back to Konoha. Naruto stared in disbelief at the last Uchiha. What did he do with the cage bushin, Sasuke, during your fight? Sasuke gripped his knuckles tightly. He made a Rasengan with a clone to distract me while the real one snuck behind me and hit me on the stomach with a Rasengan. The crowd gasps. Naruto stared at him in disbelief. What the hell, Sasuke? Why? Silence, demon. You have done enough damage. Hiyashi glared at Naruto and had more guards to restrain him. Get your hands off me. Naruto tried to remove the guards off him but failed. Hiyashi turned his attention to several anbu standing next to Naruto. Get your captain here now. We might need him for security purposes. I'm afraid we don't need to. Danzo interrupted Hiyashi. Tsunade gasped at Danzo. He knows, that bastard knows. Danzo smiled innocently towards Tsunade before smirking at Naruto. Your anbu captain is right here. Danzo pointed his cane towards him. Everyone looked around, trying to see if he was really here or not. Naruto Uzumaki, otherwise known as the Silent Storm, or better yet, our anbu captain. Everyone stared at Naruto. Everyone was in shock. Their demon was the one in charge of the entire village's security and defense. Isn't that right, Tsunade-sama? Danzo smiled at Tsunade. Tsunade gritted her teeth and nodded. She had no other choice right now. The spotlight was on her. That demon is our captain? A fellow anbu shouted from the crowd. Danzo nodded. He has been watching you all, monitoring your every movement, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Naruto growled. He was already hating the man. There was nothing else to hate about him. He stared straight at the tiny man. When I get out of here, Danzo, mark my words, I'm going to make you regret the day you ever took your first breath of air. Naruto tried to break away but failed when more anbu jumped onto the platform and restrained him. See the threat he just made? It shows that he is no longer stable to be your protector, your so-called anbu captain. The crowd started yelling and spitting at Naruto. Tsunade saw enough of this. Stop this now, she shouted. We all have secrets. Naruto's secret is something more. Danzo interrupted her. I say it's time we abandon the third's silly law. We have nothing to hide anymore. What do you judges say? Most of them nodded their head, which left Tsunade speechless. Stop. The third may be dead, but we do not disobey a man's last wish. Have you no honor? Jiraiya appeared in front of Danzo, staring him down, daring him to continue. The anbu holding Naruto back tensed up as Jiraiya turned his attention to them. Release my apprentice now or you'll go through me. The anbu reluctantly released Naruto. Thanks, Ero Sennin. Naruto dusted himself off. Danzo frowned at the turn of events. What can I do for you, Jiraiya-sama? Jiraiya stared at the man. This man was so despicable on so many levels. That law is not to be broken. It is meant to be kept with our generation and is to die with our generation. Why don't we just ask the crowd that? The crowd started shouting and yelling, which caused Danzo to smile. Looks like you just gotten your answer. He turned around and faced the crowd. We, the judges of this trial, have finalized our answer. We have came to the conclusion that Naruto Uzumaki, the man known as the Silent Storm, the Kyuubi no Yoko, will be sentenced to death for his crimes of attempted murder of one Sasuke Uchiha, and the death and destruction of Konoha Hospital. The crowd started cheering. Silence. This trial isn't over. Are there anyone who's willing to testify on Naruto's behavior? Jiraiya yelled over to the crowd. Everyone quieted down once again. He waited for someone to speak up. Come on, aren't you his friends? Jiraiya growled. This was unbelievable. No one stepped forward to help. Naruto was scanning the crowd looking for his friends. He saw them spread out. Ino and Sakura gave him a dirty look, which he can figure what they were mad about. Shino stood there with his shades on, showing no emotion whatsoever. Shikamaru wasn't there, but a shocked Choji stopped eating. Kiba and Lee were looking at him with shocked expressions on their faces. Neji was holding Hinata back, stopping her from running away. The friends that he had were standing there, like they were frozen in ice. Jiraiya stood there, waiting for anyone to speak up. When no one spoke up, he sighed. He turned around and walked past Naruto, who was still in shock. What are you guys doing? Aren't you guys my friends? Naruto yelled out. He looked each one of them in the eye. You lied to us, Naruto. You lied to us about being the anbu captain and being the Kyuubi no Yoko. Kiba yelled back. You're nothing but a liar, Naruto. You even tried to kill Sasuke and you're the Kyuubi as well? I thought I could trust you, but now? Sakura yelled out. He stared at them, a straight face, deprived of all emotions. I thought you guys were my friends. He started shaking his head. I must have been living in a dream all this time. Go to hell, demon. He looked to his right, to see a familiar face. It was Eagle trying to lunge forward, but Tiger holding her back. I knew you were a bloody demon when you slaughtered all those people. The crowd started chanting, death to the demon. Naruto started to back away, fearing for the worst. Tsunade walked up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. She faced the crowd. The trial is over. She took a deep breath before continuing. The council's decision is. Naruto stood there with his eyes closed. If Tsunade was going to do something, it better be now. Death. Naruto opened his eyes in shock. Death. The word echoed through his mind. He looked at the person who he could have called an older sister or a motherly figure. She started walking away but took a quick look at Naruto, who was quickly surrounded with anbu. What? Tsunade-sama. He glared straight at her with his icy blue eyes. She quickly walked back to her seat and sat down. Naruto looked around, surrounded by the very team that he was in charge of. Looks like we'll have a new captain soon. Farad said mockingly. The others just laughed. Naruto growled. You're nothing but maggots compared to me. You guys don't even deserve the title of anbu. Get him. Danzo ordered. The anbu dog piled Naruto, covering him down. Naruto heard footsteps approaching him, getting closer and closer as each second passed. He looked up and saw Eagle standing in front of him with a sword. "This is for the hell you put me through." She kicked him in the face, causing him to bleed from the lip. "Hold him up." Her fellow anbu held him up, in front of the crowd. Eagle started twirling the sword, just to entertain the crowd with her sword skills before stopping in front of Naruto. "Anything you want to say, demon?" Naruto smiled sadly. "Friends are a figment of imagination. I should have known better than to live in an imaginary world." He shook his head in disappointment. He looked at Eagle. "And you, Eagle, are still a weak piece of shit that shouldn't have passed the exam." Eagle gritted her teeth and struck him with the sword, impaling him through the stomach. She yanked the sword out and watched blood spray all over the place. Naruto ignored the pain and started laughing. "I swear to God that even if I have to go through hell and back, I will come back and kill you all." He glared straight at the crowd before turning his head to the judges. They all shuddered. Those were the coldest blue eyes they ever seen. "Die, demon." As Eagle brought the sword down to strike his head, Naruto unleashed everything. He released the power that he was holding back, the power of Kyuubi and himself, the power of one. Red chakra bombarded the area, blowing everyone away. His wounds started healing at a rapid rate. He walked up to the judges. "You wanted to see a real demon? Well, you got one right in front of you." Naruto released even more chakra, blowing the desk away. It was an understatement to say that they were scared shitless, but they turned pale, even in Hiashi's case. Several anbu tackled Naruto away from the elders, trying to protect them. Naruto laughed as he saw the pitiful attempt. "Die." With a quick swipe of his chakra, the anbu were shredded into pieces. Kaharu turned around to see Jiraiya just standing there. "Jiraiya-sama, oh thank God you're still here." She immediately bowed to him. "You have to stop him, Jiraiya-sama." Jiraiya laughed. "You expect me to help you after the way you treated him? Die by your own mistakes, you old farts. You will not be dragging me down with your pitiful choices." She was shocked as she watched him walk past Naruto without doing anything. Naruto turned his attention to the judges, approaching them slowly. The chakra blowing everything away. Before he took another step, he was hit with a Gatsuga. Naruto gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain. "Kiba." As Naruto staggered back, he heard a familiar voice. "You are within the range of my divination." Naruto turned around, only to find Neji in his stance. "Hake Hyaku Naijahachi Sho." As Neji attempted to strike, Naruto smirked. He caught Neji's wrist and kneed him in the stomach. "Is this demon enough for you?" He flipped Neji over and threw him towards Hiashi. Naruto flipped through some hand seals with ease and whispered, "Futon." Daitopa. Winds of great magnitude blew everything and everyone away. Naruto walked past Tsunade and looked at her for a split second before running away. Hiashi staggered back up to his feet. He watched as Naruto leapt away. Everyone after the demon. All able bodies began to pursue him. Tsunade stood there, recalling the events that just took place. A pair of crimson eyes watched from afar. He shook his head. Konoha's own ignorance will be their own downfall. He continued to hide in the shadows, waiting for the moment where he shall make his grand entrance. Naruto kept running, trying to create as much distance as he can between his pursuers and himself. He felt his heart beating faster and faster. He couldn't believe what just happened. He wasn't stopping for anything, not anymore. There was nothing left for him here. The only thing he had left in this village was his execution date, and he was sure as hell that it was one date he will not be keeping. Naruto looked over his shoulders while he was running away. He could make out maybe 5 or 6 ninjas currently hot on his trail. He frowned. He had done those fools a favor by running away and not killing their remaining ninjas, but yet they still send them to chase after him? The council must be stupid for sending these young ninjas to their deaths. His battle did not concern these ninjas. It was with the people who sentenced him to death that he had an issue with. Them and only them. Naruto increased his chakra output, causing him to gain a burst of speed, leaving his pursuers in his dust. Naruto leapt from a tree branch, easily clearing 3 buildings and landing on a wide-open rooftop before disappearing. As the ninjas reached the point where Naruto disappeared, they looked around, trying to figure out what just happened. "Kiba-san, where did he go?" Kiba stuck his nose up into the air and sniffed, trying to find the right scent. He let out a low growl. He wasn't known as Konoha's best tracker for nothing. He once caught the scent of a missing ninja that was 100 feet away. If he could do that, why couldn't he smell Naruto's scent? It should be easy for someone like him. Split up, he's covering his scent somehow. Kiba barked out several orders, sending the men to search the four corners of the village. Kiba smirked. Let's see if you can hide now, you coward. He stood on the rooftop, surveying the surrounding area for any changes. A gust of wind blew towards Kiba, causing him to shiver against the cold breeze. Why do you resent me, Kiba? A hollow voice whispered into the wind, causing Kiba to turn around. To his surprise, he found no one there. His eyes told him no one was there, but his instinct was screaming danger. He turned back around and met face to face with an old friend. What did I ever do to you? Kiba stepped back, surprised by the sudden appearance of the ex-captain. Naruto. This was the man who was known as the Anbu captain, the man who the other villages marked as the Silent Storm. Did I ever hurt you? Naruto stepped forward, trying to find some answers. Stay back, demon. Kiba quickly regained his focus and threw a kunai towards Naruto. Naruto stood there, motionless as the kunai came towards his face. With a quick swipe, the kunai was split into two. Kiba's eyes widened. The kunai was forged from the hardest metal. There was no way chakra could have done that. He noticed that Naruto's right hand was folded up, like it was gripping something. Consider this a warning. If you follow me again, I will dispose of you and everyone else who stands in my way. Naruto stared at Kiba with his cold, empty eyes. There was nothing left. Naruto could see the anger and fear in Kiba's eyes. Everyone has turned against him. The entire village was against him. Was there truly no one left in this village that believed him? Naruto felt his heart breaking as these thoughts occupied his head. Kaba! Naruto heard someone shouting Kiba's name and jumped away in time to avoid an incoming kick. Lee, Neji? Naruto said their names slowly as he landed away from the trio. It would seem like reinforcement has arrived. Naruto felt his lips changing into a slight frown. Their timing couldn't be any worse. Turn yourself in, Uzumaki. Neji stepped forward, determined to bring Naruto back to justice. Naruto's eyebrows rose. Do you believe their lies? Do yo? Demons have no right to speak about lies. Neji barked out. Naruto found that comment amusing. His scenes went crazy when he saw Lee disappear in front of him. He saw a kick coming from his left side. Naruto raised his arm to guard. Lee threw a hard left kick but was surprised to see Naruto already in position to counter. Naruto caught hold of Lee's kick and threw him to the ground. He quickly put his right hand over his throat. Move one step and you will be visiting Lee annually at a graveyard. Kiba was about to step forward when Neji stopped him. Don't. He's holding a blade somewhat near Lee's throat. Naruto saw Neji with his Byakugan activated. This was an interesting turn of events. Neji was able to distinguish his weapon now. Naruto moved his hand slightly, causing Lee to wince at the pain caused by the invisible blade. Smart move, Neji. Naruto looked straight into the Hyuga's eyes. I will say this once more. If you come after me, Konoha will have 3 more deaths to mourn for. Naruto made his point clearly by causing some blood to leak out from Lee's throat. You won't get away with this, Uzumaki. You have nowhere to run. The Hyuga prodigy pointed out. They had the upper hand here. Naruto laughed. It wasn't a warm laugh. It was a cold, empty laugh. The laugh of someone who didn't care anymore. Listen to yourself. Do you think you won because I'm trapped here? I'm not known as the Silent Storm for nothing, Neji. Neji glanced at him. Just a few more seconds. He had to keep Naruto's attention focused on him while he brought Lee some more time. Luckily for them, Naruto didn't notice Lee's hand movements, which was slowly reaching for the kunai pouch. In a few moments they would be able to apprehend the demon. Make this easy on yourself, Uzumaki. Maybe the council will spare your life. Naruto shook his head. The council members are fools. The people in the entire village are fools. I was an even bigger fool for trusting you guys. Friends? What a useless word. Neji saw the moment of opportunity. Naruto was preoccupied with his speech to be paying attention to his hostage. Big mistake. Now Lee. Lee quickly knocked away Naruto's right hand and with lightning-fast motion, he quickly rammed the kunai into Naruto's chest, just barely missing the heart. Lee pushed the kunai in, making sure it was going in. Naruto staggered back, taken by surprise from Lee's actions. Lee stood up, wiping the blood off from his throat. You lose, Naruto? I'm sorry, but this is for the greater good of the village. He stood there alongside Kiba and Neji, who just looked on. Naruto clutched his wounds, with a shocked expression on his face. Neji stepped forward. It didn't have to be this way, Uzumaki. Naruto staggered forward, swaying from side to side. He finally collapsed to the floor, just in front of Neji's feet. The group slowly approached the body, making sure it wasn't a trap. As soon as Neji's hand approached the body, a hand suddenly jerked up and grabbed his wrist. Neji was taken by surprise. He tried to shake it loose but found the grip unbreakable. What the hell? Neji performed a simple karate chop on Naruto's hand, but the man did not let go. What's the matter? Stuck? The head turned, revealing a smirking Naruto. Everyone's eyes widened, shocked to see the man still able to move. By the way, Naruto says boom. Neji's eyes widened as he saw the Naruto in front of him building up chakra. Run! He shouted out an evacuation order to his teammates, but it was already too late. The Naruto that was holding onto Neji's wrist exploded, causing a major explosion that rocked the area, causing damage all over the village. In a different part of the village, Naruto received the updated information from his clone. It seemed like they played right into his hands, those fools. If they only had taken his warning, maybe they would have lived. Naruto looked behind him. This was the last place they would expect him to be. Naruto took a step into a grassy area, a place where legends were built on. Legends that shape their daily lives, events that defy explanation. Individuals here whose lives soar up to the heavens or fall to the earth. This is the place where legends are born. He stepped up to a familiar stone, a place where he spent the last 5 months visiting when his nightmares became unbearable, his one place where his soul was finally at peace. He touched the stone and sighed. Hello, Iruka-sensei. Sakura and her medic team immediately rushed to the area where the large explosion just occurred. When she got there, the sight before her shattered her imagination. This was something that defied all reasoning. Whatever happened here was unbelievable. Instead of the usual block of apartment buildings and stores, it was now a big crater, filled with nothing but rocks and overturned dirt. Ino raised her hand to cover her mouth, unable to believe the events that happened here. Oh my god, Sakura? Her best friend called out, snapping Sakura back to reality. Sakura quickly got her act together. Every minute meant losing lives. Everyone quickly search the area and find me some survivors. Now, the entire medic team spread out, searching for whatever survivors that may still be here. Ino walked up to Sakura, still shocked from the events. Dear Lord Sakura, what do you think happened here? Sakura shook her head, praying that there were still some survivors alive under the mess. I only have a couple of guesses. It's been a while, Iruka-sensei. Naruto's voice showing some emotion. I'm sorry that I haven't visited in a while. He touched the spot where Iruka's name was engraved onto. Things have been a bit hectic around here. Naruto chuckled to himself. Things weren't even hectic. Hectic was just a nice way of putting it. Things were thrown upside down and then rearranged beyond recognition. It was just a disaster. Maybe if you were here, things could have been different. Just maybe if I were a little stronger, you would have been alive. Maybe if. Naruto's voice started to crack, tears starting to form in his eyes. Maybe if it was me, then this village would have been better off. He fell down to his knees, letting his tears hit the soft earth, the place where he considered his home for the last 20 years. His mind drifted back to the man who he considered family, his older brother. He remembered the day like it was yesterday, the day when his older brother died. Only a few people have tried to talk to him about it, but it didn't work. Naruto was always busy, occupying himself with work so his mind wouldn't think back the event. It was hard, but he always managed to get through life. This was the way he lived it, the only path that was open to him. A breeze of wind blew through the area, carrying some leaves along with it. A faint sound emerged from the winds, almost like it was trying to say something. Naruto picked his head up, responding to that voice. The voice sounded so familiar yet so far away. It was the voice of someone that he hadn't heard in a long time. Aniki? His eyes looked up, trying to find the person he missed most. He lowered his head in disappointment when he saw no one. I'm sorry I couldn't be the person you wanted me to be. I'm sorry for everything. Naruto continued to cry, oblivious to the person walking up behind him. Naruto? Naruto suddenly jumped up, surprising the person behind him. Naruto found his hands at the man's throat, inches away from crushing the man's windpipes. He was shocked that someone had disturbed him while he was in his special place. The one place where he considered himself safe. His face turned from shock to surprise. Kakashi, sensei? Naruto finally realized who the man was. The white-haired man that stood before Naruto, the great copy ninja Sharingan Kakashi. Kakashi did the only thing that he could for Naruto. The man hugged him. For the first time since Iruka's death, Naruto never had another hug from someone who has felt the same pain as him. Naruto felt all his mental barriers failing. The emotions that he held back since his death came rushing to the surface. Naruto cried on the man's shoulder, letting out his pain that he was carrying on his shoulders for the past few years. It's okay, Naruto. It's going to be okay. This was the man who the village labeled as a demon, the bloodthirsty killer that was better off dead. If only they got past their ridiculous pride, they would see a suffering human being, a man who was innocent of all crimes, a man who was carrying a huge burden on his shoulders. Naruto cried for a good few minutes before drying his tears. He let go of his sensei, just wondering why the man was here. What are you doing here, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto felt something inside him, a feeling that he hasn't felt for a long time, the bond between student and teacher. He felt himself transported back to his genin days, when they were only student and teacher, not a demon that was being hunted down by the village's ninja. Are you here to kill me? Naruto stood there, waiting for the man's answer. No, this place does not need any more bloodshed. This is a place for the fallen, not a place for blood. Besides, I always come here to speak to Obito as well. Naruto lowered his head, feeling at ease for the moment. The two stood there for a moment, enjoying the silence. Kakashi caught scent of something in the air. It was the scent of metal. Naruto, you should get out of here. Ninjas are coming. Naruto nodded his head. He looked at the hero's memorial stone one last time. This is goodbye forever, Iruka Nichan. Naruto turned around, disappearing into the wind. Kakashi smiled under his mask. If the events turned out differently, that boy would have become the best Hokage this village ever had. Kakashi-san. A loud voice knocked Kakashi out of his own thoughts. Kakashi turned around, wondering who else could be here. When he turned around, he saw a group of chunins with their kunais out. Did the demon come over here? Kakashi sighed before walking over to them. So they sent chunins as well? The leader of the pack, a big chunin, nodded. The chunins quickly scanned the area for any signs of Naruto. They have also sent out several anbu units as well. All able ninjas are to regroup and gather by the front gate. So did the demon come this way? Kakashi tilted his head, his eyes showing some amusement. With a quick left hand, the big chunin went down. Aware of what just happened, the remaining chunins backed away. What are you doing, Kakashi-san? Kakashi blurred out of sight and proceeded to knock out the rest of the team. I can't allow you guys to do this. I'm sorry. The medic team had been digging for the past 10 minutes, trying to uncover something. So far, it was just rubble after rubble. Sakura-san, I found something. Sakura quickly moved towards the man, hoping that he had found something useful. As a field medic, you have to be prepared for everything that was to come, but this was one thing that Sakura wasn't prepared for. When she got there, her eyes widened, her hands quickly covering her mouth, unable to speak. Ino saw Sakura's shocked look. She walked over there to see what happened. Ino went into shock as well, unable to believe that this was happening. The medic team uncovered the body of a well-known ninja, a very familiar one. Kiba, Ino and Sakura both shouted. Kiba was no longer the man he once was. He had burns all over his body and his body was badly bruised. If it wasn't for his armor, he would have probably been in worse condition. Sakura quickly searched for a pulse. Come on, Kiba, don't die on me here. She found a pulse, but it was low, very low. Her face paled. Kiba might not make it. Everyone over here. Emergency protocol now. All available medics began to perform the Shosen no Jutsu. They had to operate on Kiba now or else he wouldn't make it. Ino backed away until she tripped on something. She looked down and saw that she tripped over a bloody hand. She quickly screamed, drawing everyone's attention. I found someone else. Ino quickly cleared the rubble, revealing Lee and Neji in the same condition, if not worse. They both sported burns all over their face and body parts. Ino quickly searched for a pulse and felt her heart beating faster and faster as she tried to locate different pulse positions. They're still alive, she shouted, drawing Sakura's attention. Their pulse was low, which meant their condition was in a critical state. Sakura left the rest of the team to work on Kiba while she went to work on the other two. Ino stared at the battered bodies of Lee and Neji. Could Naruto have done this much damage? Sakura put her hands above Neji's heart, her hands turning green, which meant the healing jutsu was starting. It had to be Naruto. Why else would they be like this, Ino? Sakura snapped at her, not really caring for anything else at the moment except for saving their lives. Ino quickly got the picture and went to work on saving Lee. Tsunade looked at the mess that stood before her. The impractical stuff like tables and chairs were overturned and people were all over the streets. Lucky for them, Naruto only blew them away with winds and not with anything else. She was lucky that no one was critically injured, except for those Anbu who was stupid enough to get in his way. She was quickly approached by the elders, who each had a stern look on their face. Tsunade, did you see what that demon did? We have to quickly assemble our forces at the front gate. He will surely try to leave the village that way. Kaharu immediately pointed out. The demon was already loose inside the village. There was no telling what could happen. Don't worry, my root unit is already on the job, pursuing the demon as we speak. Danzo smirked. Pretty soon Tsunade will have no choice but to resign, and then it would be his time to shine. The third Hokage was a fool to let that boy live. He lost count of the number of times he had confronted the third about executing the boy but was merely turned away, stating that the demon was no harm to the village. He silently laughed at the third, almost wishing he was alive to see this day. Tsunade looked around, looking for a particular person. Damn it, Jiraiya, where did you go? If only Jiraiya was here, maybe he could talk some sense into these old farts. She continued to look around, no sign of her old teammate anywhere. Tsunade, we're ordering all our forces to stand guard in front of the village gate. Homura spoke up, catching Tsunade's attention. Gather everyone and go, she half-heartedly shouted out. She watched as the elders disappeared, with ninjas slowly getting up and following them. Shizune appeared next to Tsunade, standing by her side. Do you think he's going to be okay? Shizune quietly asked. For his sake, he better be. Tsunade felt her knees giving out and was about to collapse until Shizune caught her, providing support to help her to her feet. Oh Tsunade-sama, she helped her mentor up and the two of them slowly approached the front gate. The village of Konoha, one of the greatest hidden villages to ever exist, was in turmoil. Destruction and death was reeking from the great village. Both villagers and ninjas alike were running in fear that the great demon, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, was released. The very beast that their Yondaime gave his life to seal away. Naruto quickly ran towards the front gate. If he can exit the village in one piece, then he would be safe. No ninjas would dare to follow him into the openness. No one would expect him to just waltz out from the village using the front gate. He was pretty sure the walls were being watched. Naruto leapt off from another building, forgetting stealth and just quickly using his speed to leave the village. Naruto caught another chakra signal. Wait, not one but a few chakra signals approaching quickly from behind. He decided not to fight but to escape as soon as possible. He saw a blur appear next to him before spearing him into a nearby building, sending him through several walls before landing on the grounds of an alleyway. He cursed his luck. He was about 300 yards away from the gate and he was caught. Naruto looked up and saw the person who tackled him. Sasuke. Sasuke stood there, staring Naruto down. Get up, Naruto. He just tackled Naruto through a couple of walls, it couldn't have hurt him that much. Get out of my way, Teme. Naruto growled, or I'll go through you. Naruto slowly got up, easily matching Sasuke's height. Several Junins appeared next to Naruto, surrounding him completely. The Junins cracked their knuckles, anticipating that a fight would come. You can't beat all of us, Naruto. Sasuke spoke up, making a clear point. Naruto looked around. Chances of escape were low and he knew that. All those missions had given him the skill to analyze his environment carefully. That wasn't the only thing missions taught him. They also taught him survival skills. When plans don't work, which was 80% of the time, improvise and execute. Sasuke saw Naruto's hand twitched and quickly unsheathed the kusanagi. He disappeared and reappeared next to Naruto's right side, trying to catch him off guard. Naruto quickly blocked with his kunai. Metal against metal, both sides struggling for dominate control. Naruto matched Sasuke's strength with his own, with both sides not giving up. The other Junins quickly jumped in, trying to lend support to Sasuke. Several Junins proceed to make some hand seals before performing their jutsus. Sasuke saw the humongous fire dragon coming towards him and quickly jumped out of the way. Naruto saw it coming as well and leapt up, only to be greeted by a drop heel kick from another Junin. Naruto knew he was surrounded, there was no way out. He kept dodging the series of punches and kicks from the Junins. While Naruto was busy dodging the Junins, he kept one eye trained on Sasuke, who was the most dangerous out of all of them. Sasuke continually went in and out with a series of punches, trying to throw off Naruto's rhythm. He couldn't keep this up much longer. Naruto found himself backed into a corner, with no chance of running. "It's over for you now, Naruto." He saw Sasuke above him, coming straight down with the Kusanagi aiming for a vertical slash. Naruto gritted his teeth, there wasn't much to do. His options were limited to just a few now. Sasuke quickly came down on Naruto but was surprised when he saw Naruto blocked his attack. Sasuke narrowed his eyes when he saw Naruto intercepting the attack with his own hands. Always so pathetic, Sasuke Teme. Naruto quick yanked the sword towards him and mustered all the strength he had left and punched Sasuke in the jaw, sending him to the ground. Sasuke went down hard, unable to get back up. Naruto smirked. That felt so good. He was pretty sure he had broken Sasuke's jaw. It didn't matter. It was payback and this was a great feeling. The other Junins growled quietly, clearly expressing their anger. Naruto noticed their slow movements. "You call yourself protectors of this village? You can't even take on one lousy guy. You are a disgrace to this village." He taunted them, buying himself some more time. "Oh, we'll protect something, all right. We'll protect the village from the likes of you demon scum." The closest Junin spat out. They approached him slowly, which Naruto hated. If they ran at him all at once, he could have taken them all and won, but they were playing it safe. The slower they walked, the more they were alert to Naruto's actions. The group of Junins suddenly all ran towards him, with their weapons held out to kill. Naruto braced himself for the attack. If he could endure this attack, then he was free to counter. All he had to do was survive this attack. It was easier said than done when you're faced with a group of Junins. Naruto felt time slowing down, his heart rate beating faster and faster. He cursed himself for wasting too much chakra from his earlier escape. He felt the chakra usage taking a toll on his body. Is this the end? He repeated the question in his mind. No. His mind kept screaming the answer, forbidding himself from giving up. He can't give up. They would win if he gave up now. He saw his attackers slowly reaching him, weapons out and ready to kill. In a split second, everyone froze, unable to comprehend what happened. One moment, they were rushing towards the demon, and the next, their fellow comrade dropped dead on the floor. Naruto's eyes widened. He didn't do this. Someone else did. He saw a hint of silver before the man dropped dead. His mind quickly formulated a plan. Go ahead. Take another step. Naruto dared the men to step forward. His voice was cold, like a person who has nothing to lose but everything to gain. The men hesitated, unsure of what to do. It took just a second to see their hesitation, but it was just the opportunity that Naruto needed. He focused some chakra into his right hand, summoning his wind blade. It felt like second nature to summon it, but he still winced at the pain. He dashed forward, his hand aimed to kill. Within moments, he killed 3 and left 1 critically injured. He turned his head to the one that was still alive. Looks like I missed. He pointed his sword forward, aiming straight at the wound he inflicted upon the man. Pressing it lightly, the man squirmed against the pain. You probably think of me as a demon. Wait, no, you do think that I'm the Kyuubi, but after the events today, I would say that you guys are the ones who should be considered demons. Naruto dispelled the sword. The man looked like he didn't have much fight left in him. He leaned over to inspect the man. You look like a decent man. How would you like to bargain for your life? Naruto took a deep breath. He felt his body screaming in pain, yearning for a break. That bastard fox decided to cut off all connections with him at this critical time. Just great. The man whispered something, but Naruto couldn't make it out. He asked again, "What's that? I can't hear you." The man took a deep breath, finding his voice to answer Naruto. "I said my name is Taiyu Mashino." The man grunted, feeling the pain. "Well, Taiyu-san, If you would kindly tell Tsunade and all her forces to back off, I will leave this village in peace." The man named Taiyu laughed. "You leave this village in peace? Demons like you don't know the meaning of peace." He spat some blood in Naruto's face. Naruto wiped the blood off his face. "Do a little nice thing?" Naruto slowly lowered his hand. "And this is what you get." Naruto forcefully hit the man's wounded area, causing Taiyu to groan in pain. "Now, will you do it or not?" Taiyu continued to laugh. "Never. I might not live to see the day you die, but I know one thing. I'll see you in hell." The man took his last breath before passing out. Naruto sighed. Things weren't exactly turning out the way he wanted. He looked at the dead man. So prideful yet so stupid. They were like sheep being led around by a shepherd, not questioning why to do this or that. People are by nature manipulative and only work for themselves. This was a lesson that he learned the hard way. As Naruto slowly got up, he felt a great amount of pain erupt from his body. He saw blood coming out from chest. He turned around and saw Taiyu standing there, clutching his wound with one hand and the other one thrusting the kunai into his chest. Taiyu laughed. "I told you I would see you in hell. Now burn, demon." Naruto gritted his teeth, trying to ignore the pain. He quickly pulled away from Taiyu and yanked the kunai out. He immediately shoved the kunai into Taiyu's throat, killing him instantly. Naruto collapsed on the ground, trying to form the hand seals for a medical jutsu. He chuckled to himself. It was ironic. He never thought there would be a day he would need to use it on himself. Damn the fox. As Naruto painfully finished the hand seal and began healing, he felt another presence in the alleyway. He scanned the area without interrupting his healing process. "I know you're there. Show yourself." Naruto had to buy himself some more time. He needed to heal the wound in his right hand so at least he could have a fighting chance. "Naruto Uzumaki," the mysterious voice quietly whispered into the area, echoing all around. Naruto looked around, trying to recognize the voice. He heard the sounds of a cloak flapping in the wind on his right. He was in for a shock when he recognized the symbols on that dark cloak. "Akatsuki," Naruto growled. He moved his left hand over to his right hand, trying to heal it. He was in for another surprise when he recognized the face. Uchiha, Itachi, the S-ranked missing nin stepped out from the shadows with a stoic face on. Naruto cursed his luck. Of all the bloody people that it could have been, it had to be him. After the hell he just went through, there was no way he can walk away alive from an Akatsuki member. "What do you want, Itachi?" Itachi slowly formed a smirk on his face as he looked at the mess that laid before him. "It looks like that the great Uzumaki is critically injured. There's a big bounty on your head. Did you know that, Naruto-kun?" Naruto started to scoot back, increasing the distance between him and Itachi. Itachi's smirk slowly reverted back into his stoic face. He drew a blade from underneath his cloak. Naruto stared at the man who was responsible for single-handedly wiping out the Uchiha clan in one night, Uchiha Itachi. Itachi approached the ex-captain slowly, showing the blade in its full glory. "If you're here to kill me, Itachi, then wait in line. I got a whole list to go through before you get your turn." Naruto had one eye trained on Itachi while the other one was looking after the healing procedure. Just a few more minutes, he told himself. A few more minutes and he can at least have a chance to fight back. Itachi raised his sword and dashed forward. Shit. Naruto saw Itachi running forward and he was backed into a corner. Naruto did the only thing that he could do, and that was to raise his arms to block the incoming attack and pray. He waited for the attack but felt nothing. He knew Itachi should have reached him by now, but where was the blood and pain? Naruto slowly lowered his arms and looked around. He saw Itachi standing in front of him, holding a sword soaked in blood. He checked his body, it wasn't his blood, and Itachi surely wasn't stupid enough to stab himself. He heard a thud behind him and turned around. A body dropped to the floor. Naruto turned around, surprised to see that there was a person hidden there. He then realized that he missed the man due to a genjutsu placed on the area. Naruto slowly picked himself up, steadily leaning against the wall, watching the missing nin as he slowly put the sword away. "I should kill you for just being here, Itachi." Itachi let out a small chuckle. "Do you really think that if you kill me here, Naruto-kun, they would take you back?" Itachi pointed his fingers outside the alleyway, at the scene of several villagers currently running to safety. "Why would you go back to a village where they hate you and scorn you like a plague? There is much you don't know about Konoha Naruto-kun. I came here to offer you a deal. A deal? What kind of deal? Naruto's interest was piqued. There wasn't any other options left open that he could take. We would like it if you would join our ranks, Naruto-kun. Naruto shook his head. No way. You guys are wanted for a reason. I will not join the likes of you. Itachi sported a curious look on his face, well, as curious as his face would get. Please enlighten me as to what those reasons might be. For one thing, you guys murder in cold blood for power with no regard to anything or anyone as long as you get it. Naruto hastily answered. Itachi laughed. You have become a naive man, Naruto-kun. Itachi then pondered on another option. How about this then? Follow me outside the village and hear the real truth about the village before deciding if you want to join us or not. There had to be a catch. There is always a catch. Naruto smirked. And if I decide not to? Itachi shrugged. You can walk away free, and then the next time we meet, we will be as enemies and not allies. Naruto thought about this offer. He had nothing to lose but a lot to gain. Fine. Naruto held out his hand to seal the deal. Itachi looked at Naruto's gestures strangely before putting out his own hand. Naruto grabbed it and shook. So let's leave. Itachi shook his head. The deal was that you had to get out. I won't help you. If you can't get out of here alive, then you don't deserve to know. With that said, Itachi stepped back into the shadows and disappeared. Naruto dropped his jaw a little. He was taken like a sucker. Damn it, Itachi. He quietly cursed the Uchiha. The next time he sees him, he's going to strangle the damn guy. Naruto formed his hands into a basic seal and hanged into a fellow leaf Chunin. No one would recognize Chunins. They were too low below the power chain to be recognized. He slowly shushed out of the alleyway and into the rooftop, quickly joining his fellow Chunins. He smiled to himself. This wasn't the best plan, but all he needed is to conserve his chakra and reach the gate. He was joined up with a team of Chunins who was also making haste to the gate. Naruto looked over and made eye contact with them. He slowly joined their formation, hoping to blend in. Did you find the demon? A fellow Chunin asked. Naruto shook his head. No, the bastard ran away before I could track him. Naruto replied with an angry tone. The first step in blending in with the enemy is to be like them. Don't give them too much information and don't act too much into your part. Just be average and observe how others respond. Don't worry. We'll get him in the front gate. Everyone's there, even the Hokage. Naruto's eyes widened. He did not just hear that. The plan just got more complicated. There was no way that he could hide from Tsunade. Maybe she wouldn't notice and he can slip behind them. Naruto laughed to himself. Like Tsunade won't notice. She was the one who condemned him to this in the first place. What's your name? A Chunin asked, kicking Naruto out of his own thoughts. Taiyu Mashino. He quickly used the name of the dead man that he just killed. Great to have you on board, Taiyu-san. Naruto quickly nodded as the group made haste to the front gate. Tsunade-sama. Our forces are all here. An anbu walked up next to her. Good job. Tsunade nodded her head and quickly scanned the area, waiting for Naruto. Within the next few moments, ninjas of all ranks, Chunins, Junins and anbu came gathering by the front gate. It was the largest assembly of ninjas ever since the Third Shinobi War. Let's see if the demon can get through us all. A Junin sneered. The rest of them joined in and laughed. Danzo stepped forward and raised a hand, signaling everyone to be quiet. We will deploy the forces into two groups, the front assault, the ambush team. Danzo pointed to the location of where the ambush team should go hide and wait for his signal while the front assault team will hold their positions. Tsunade shook her head, feeling her heart crumbling as she watched her power slip from her grasps. She then saw a group of Chunins quickly coming towards them. When they arrived, they greeted their Hokage. Greetings, Hokage-sama. Tsunade half-heartedly responded and pointed them to be the front assault team. Naruto surveyed the area. There were less ninjas than he expected. You there? Naruto turned around and was met face to face with Danzo. I want you over there now. Yes, sir. Naruto spoke up in an alert yet boring voice, showing to the man that he was just a new Chunin. Just a little longer, Naruto kept telling himself. Danzo was right in front of him, but he can't kill him just yet. No, he was going to make that man suffer a thousand's death over before he died. Naruto found his mind going back to his little discussion with Itachi. The enemies will do anything to save themselves, even if it means forming false alliances. That was the first rule he learned while training for anbu. Never believe anything the enemy has to say. Always look underneath the underneath. Kakashi's voice echoed through his head. What if Itachi's logic proved true? Naruto slowly shook himself out of his thoughts. The time to act is now, while the enemy is still mobilizing. Naruto casually slipped behind the front line, making his way to the back. Hey Taiyu-san, where you running off to? Naruto froze in his steps. Damn the insolent Chunin. Naruto turned around and casually rubbed his head, acting like what a normal Chunin would do if he got caught. They told me to stand in the back. Go figure. He shrugged and continued to move. As he prepared to move back, he felt someone holding on to his wrist. Hold on there, Homura said as he grabbed his wrist. What did you say your name was? He stared at the Chunin suspiciously. Naruto smiled. Taiyu Mashino. He said it fluently, without hesitation. Any hesitation would immediately allow the enemy to know that you're lying. I see. So how are your wife and kids? The elder must be on to him. He could kill him here, but then he's right in the middle of a war zone. Not a good idea. I'm not married, Elder Sama. Naruto answered. I like bachelorhood too much to get myself married. He didn't see any signs of a ring on the man's finger before he died, so it was a gamble with this answer. Homura nodded. He let go of Naruto's wrist and walked back to Danzo. Naruto stopped at the back and watched the man talk to Danzo. He was careful not to make more eye contact or else it would show that you're guilty. He could see Homura talk casually to Danzo, but his instincts were telling him otherwise. He saw Danzo glance at him for a split second before turning away. Shit, my cover might have been blown. Naruto quickly looked around for an escape route. An idea hit him. If he could walk towards the door, he could hinge into something else, something smaller. Naruto started walking away again, but decided that this time he would be escaping from the front of the line. Naruto quickly slipped inside a vacant building, buying his time carefully. He performed some basic hand seals and quietly whispered his trademark technique. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. A Naruto clone appeared from the smoke and grinned. Distraction, right boss? The real Naruto nodded and pointed to the back door. The clone received the hint and left quickly. Naruto stepped back to the entrance and waited for the signal to come, where his clone will finally make his grand appearance. Look, there's the demon. He heard some shouts coming from the outside, feeling the movements. He quickly shushed outside and joined the chase. Hopefully, he can slip behind their forces and leave. Naruto watched from behind as he saw his clone having everyone chase him around in circles. He slowed down his pace, allowing ninjas to pass him, and allowed himself to be near the end. When he saw that he was one of the last ninjas, he stopped in his tracks and turned around. He paid no attention to anything else. He quickly made his way back to the front gate. When Naruto got there, he was in for a shock. There stood most of the root anbu unit along with Danzo. Greetings Uzumaki. Danzo coldly greeted to his prey. Naruto released a small growl as his eyes focused themselves on the figure in front of him. Get out of my way, Danzo. As Naruto stared at the man, he could feel his hands begging to be unleashed, wanting nothing more than to tear him apart. Naruto moved around slowly, his feet scuffling against the ground. He didn't want to make too much movement. Too much movement would show that you're afraid. Too little movement would show that you're unable to move, giving the enemy a reason to attack. As he observed his environment, he noticed that there were root members watching his every movement. Danzo smirked as he saw Naruto's eyes shifting all over the place. Let me tell you something, demon. There is no way that you can escape from this place alive. I suspected that you might pull a trick like this, so I made sure that all possible escape routes were covered. Danzo tapped his cane lightly. There is nowhere else to hide. I will finally do what the third could never do, and that is to kill you. Naruto felt his body automatically preparing itself for battle. His muscles were beginning to contract against each other, getting itself ready to fight at any given moment. He finally understood what his destiny was. It was no longer to become Hokage of this village, it was bring judgment to people that have done him wrong. He was born and raised to fight, and fighting is something that he will never escape. No matter where he went, this primeval fighting instinct will always be a part of him. He raised his arms and slipped into an unusual fighting stance. I'm leaving this village one way or another, and I'm intending to leave it alive. Danzo turned his smirk into a sadistic smile. Look around you. You are surrounded by my root. They are the best of the best, far superior than your average anbu. Without any given warning, every member of Root threw kunais and shurikens towards Naruto. The leader of Root stood there silently, paying close attention to the fight. After a few seconds, he saw the body scarred beyond recognition. He shook his head, disappointed at the ability demonstrated by the Kyuubi. The demon was truly something to be feared. It was rumored to be the strongest of the Bijus, a name truly worth to be among the legends. I thought the mighty Kyuubi no Kitsune would have put up a better fight than this. Even though the battle was over, Danzo still felt uneasy. This feels way too easy. Killing someone of his caliber should not have been this easy, but then again, the man in front of him was impaled by so many weapons, it was impossible for anyone to survive. It was a shame though. If the third had let him take the boy as he wanted, none of this would have happened. There were many issues surrounding Konoha he disagreed on, but there was no use trying to change the past. Instead of mourning over it, there is the future that one can take control of, and now, it would finally be his time to get what he deserved. I told you that I would be leaving this hellhole alive. Danzo stared at the bloody mess standing before him, his eyes shocked. No one could have survived that, but this man was still standing here and communicating with them. The weapons came from every direction, making it impossible for anyone to put up any sort of defense. The only way he could have survived this was if he knew the ultimate defense from the Hyuga. What the hell are you? He managed to stutter out. Naruto only smiled before disappearing into thin air, leaving the leader of Root even more shocked. I am the Silent Storm. Naruto's voice echoed all around. And I am your worst nightmare. Silence engulfed the area as everyone looked around for all possible hiding locations. Gah! A Root member managed to produce a sound before dropping dead. Pretty soon, the members of his prestigious Root began to drop like flies. Danzo started to panic as he watched helplessly as each of his men dropped one by one to the floor. This cannot be happening, Danzo frantically thought. He was supposed to have the advantage here. His plans could not have any flaws. There was no way he could have miscalculated this. He continued to watch in horror as his entire plan backfired in front of him. Flashes of yellow moved around his soldiers at a fast pace. Within minutes, most of his soldiers were lying on the floor dead. Damn you, demon! Danzo cursed as he continued searching for Naruto. You're probably wondering what's going to happen to you next. Don't worry, I will tell you. The Shinigami is coming. The voice echoed all around, making it impossible to track Naruto down. Why don't you plead for your pitiful life, Danzo? It is not my life that I should be worrying about. Danzo replied calmly. They will be coming back any moment now once they realize that the Naruto they're chasing is a Kage Bushin. A kunai suddenly flew towards Danzo, lodging itself in his left shoulder. He winced from the pain, gritting his teeth to keep himself from screaming. He learned through experience that showing any kind of emotions to the enemy was a sign of weakness. It was something he cannot afford here. Then I guess I better finish this now. Naruto spoke again, his voice deprived of all emotion. Another kunai flew towards Danzo, but this time, it wasn't aimed towards his upper body. The kunai hit Danzo near the leg, severing the tendons on his right ankle. Danzo dropped to the ground, unable to support himself with one leg. Another kunai came flying towards Danzo, cutting the other tendon on his left ankle, leaving the fearless Root leader incapable of running away. Just kill me and get this over with already. The older man yelled. He already lost his arm and his right eye during the Second Shinobi War. He had lost his wife and child during the Kyuubi attack. There was nothing else in his life that he could lose at this point. No, I don't want you dead, yet. Death would be the easy way out. I want you to suffer the pain you caused me. The pain that cannot be healed. Naruto appeared in front of Danzo, finally meeting the man face to face. I told you that I would make you regret. Naruto shoved the kunai in a little further, causing Danzo muffle his cry of agony. Danzo was breathing heavily, barely enduring the pain. I'll get you, demon. I'll get you if that's the last thing I do. Naruto stared at the man, his cold eyes gazing into Danzo's face. I highly doubt that, but for showing me the reality of who I am going to show you an original technique as my going away present. He began performing a series of hand seals at a fast rate. Danzo's eyes widened as he watched Naruto finish with the hand seals. His right hand began to glow brighter than any fire jutsu known to man. Danzo could feel the heat just radiating from Naruto's hand. Demon. He managed to release his final words as he watched Naruto come closer and closer. Sinarukaki. Naruto whispered the jutsu's name. Holy Fire, a rare technique that he picked up while on his missions. He found it on a scroll that was meant to be seen by members of this particular clan. How ironic. A demon using a holy technique. The world must be coming to an end. Naruto mentally laughed to himself. Never in a million years did he think that the first person to witness this technique would be Danzo. Consider yourself lucky, Danzo-chan. Naruto added the suffix intentionally. You will be the first to see this technique and you will live to tell about it. Naruto reached out and grabbed Danzo by his neck, smiling at the effects caused by the jutsu. Screams of a man could be heard from all four corners of the village. It was an inhuman scream that was filled with torture. If anyone witnessed what truly happened there, they would have been plagued with nightmares for a lifetime. Never forget, Danzo-chan. Never forget. The words barely registered in Danzo's mind as the man slipped into unconsciousness. Did you hear that scream, Hokage-sama? It sounded almost inhuman. A chunin called out. He shuddered at the scream. It sounded so brutal. Tsunade stopped in her tracks, trying to decipher what she just heard. Then it hit her. She quickly turned around and saw the Naruto that they were chasing disappeared into thin air. Quickly, everyone turn around now. Tsunade yelled. She concentrated some more chakra on her feet before taking off in the opposite direction, leaving everyone behind. As she leapt between buildings, she had a faint idea of what happened back there. Some fool probably got into a fight with Naruto and he was probably dead, judging from that scream. When Tsunade got back to the front gate, the sight before her made her stomach twist and turn. The stench of blood was so strong that it was overwhelming. If she wasn't a former field medic, she would have vomited from the things she saw in front of him. There were so many ninjas were lying on the ground lifeless. Her eyes immediately took her further down the road, where she instantly recognized the lone figure lying in the middle of the road. Danzo. Tsunade quickly approached the man, noticing that his body was shaking uncontrollably. She shook her head as she turned his body over. As much as she hated this man, she cannot bring herself to let him die. Before all else, she was a medic and a medic's first rule is to always heal people before asking them questions. While a patient is in the hospital, enemy and ally alike are treated the same way. A hospital is meant for treating the wounded, where people can make amends, not create war. She was relieved when she found a pulse still beating from within the man. Her eyes trailed down his battle-worn body, noticing the huge burn scar by his neck. Dear Lord, she muttered to herself, who could have done such a thing? She examined his neck. Those burns were serious and it will definitively serve as reminder for the rest of his life. Hokage-sama, come take a look at this. Tsunade turned her attention to the person calling her. She walked over to the fallen ninja. May his soul rest in peace. She lowered her head, giving herself a moment of silence to pay her respects to the fallen. These wounds, Hokage-sama, they were all done to the throat. Poor guys, they were probably dead before they even knew it. Very precise work too. Tsunade took a closer look at the ninja's fatal wound. The person who inflicted the wounds obviously had skill. She looked around at the other ninjas, noticing a pattern here. All the people that died here were root members and Danzo himself was lying here as well. She looked towards the unconscious man. Not even you deserve this. She started walking away, thinking back to the damage done by this single person. She now knew who could have possibly done this and it was too painful to admit it. There was only one man who could have caused this much chaos. One man who had the power to become the next Hokage, but fate intervened and denied him that right. Naruto Uzumaki, what have you done? Hokage-sama, we spotted the demon up ahead and will proceed to give chase. An anbu appeared besides her, waiting for her orders. Tsunade shook her head. Cancel that order. This wasn't a favorable situation for them. If word got out that one of Konoha's own ninja crippled the village, it would hurt their reputation as well as inviting other villages to attack them in their already weakened state. Have everyone regroup. Bring everyone that you could find to the hospital. If they are still breathing, I want them there now. Tsunade barked out, trying to salvage whatever hope was left. Naruto pasted the front gate, stopping to acknowledge the beauty and history behind it. He remembered this gate well. This was where he received his first beating as a child from some drunken villagers. He took a deep breath as he walked outside. He felt his chest being lighter somehow, as if a huge weight has been lifted. It was no longer his home, no longer his prison that tortured him on days out. It was just a memory now. The next time I'm back Konoha, it's going to be a bang. Naruto held out his palms, forming a Rasengan on each one. Rasengan. He thrust his palms straight into the wooden gate, causing it to be reduced to nothing but splinters. There were no remains of the gate from the powerful attack. It left behind only small remains of what once stood a tall, proud gate. I hope they enjoy the new look. With one last look, the man who grew up without a childhood, the man who took the beatings from the villagers each and every day, disappeared into the vast forest, never to be seen again. An hour later, Naruto traveled fast on his feet, hoping to create enough distance between him and the village. They would definitely be sending hunter nins after him as soon as they become organized. He knew what their mission was and he wasn't going to be around for them to finish the job. Just when Naruto jumped from one tree to the next, he noticed something odd. He felt like he was going in circles. There was no doubt about it. He could feel something different, but he couldn't ignore this fake feeling. He landed near a bush, determined to perform a more thorough check, but when he put his hand near the bush, his hand went through the bush, indicating that he was caught in a genjutsu. Naruto frowned. Just when was I trapped in this genjutsu? I didn't even detect one. He recalled one of his earliest lessons from Ero Sennin. The easiest way of breaking out of a genjutsu is to overload and disrupt the chakra flow. The Sannin's voice echoed through his head. He closed his eyes and began the process. Within minutes, huge amounts of chakra exploded from him at uneven intervals. When Naruto opened his eyes, his surroundings was completely different than before. His senses went on high alert when he felt another presence coming from behind him. "I'm glad to see that you are still in one piece." Itachi spoke up, stepping out from the trees, his cloak flapping quietly from the breeze. "You're late." Naruto glared at the man. "There were some issues that I had to resolve before leaving the village." "You could have left him for another time," Itachi pointed out. Naruto narrowed his eyes, wondering how he could have known what happened. His eyes widened slightly when he realized that Itachi never actually left the village. He stayed behind to monitor his activities from the sides. "You don't trust me?" Itachi shrugged, knowing that Naruto had already figured it out. "Think of it as a safety measure." Naruto sighed. Talking to this guy was like talking to Guy. Both of them were as strong as they were queer. The only time they were normal was when the situation required it to be. "I'm here about that deal, Itachi," Naruto stated. "Of course, follow me." Itachi turned around and walked deeper into the woods without mentioning another word. Naruto stared at the missing nin, wondering why he was being so cooperative. "Are you coming? We can talk about it in a more secure location," Itachi called from over his shoulders. Naruto watched Itachi's retreating figure before following him, his eyes constantly searching the area for any kind of trap. "Sit," the Uchiha ordered. Naruto looked around, taking his time to inspect the camp. He checked for any sort of traps and hidden weapons. It wasn't because he didn't trust Itachi, it was from his earlier experiences that told him not to put all your trust into one person. "Make yourself comfortable, Naruto-kun," Itachi spoke up, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. "Enough of the small talk, Itachi." Naruto interrupted. He was here for one reason and one reason only. To find out what Itachi knew. "I want that information. I held up my end of the bargain. Now it's time to tell me what you know." "I see subtlety isn't one of your strong points," Itachi commented. "Did you seriously believe that by serving the council, they would respect you? You live in that dream world where you actually thought respect comes from the things that you done. It's time to wake up. You will always be the Kyuubi no Kitsune to them. Uzumaki Naruto never existed." Naruto growled. "Tell me something that I don't already know. Get to your point." Itachi glared. "Tell me. How corrupted do you think the village is?" Naruto shrugged. "At this point, I don't really care how corrupted in their filth they are. They could kill each in broad daylight and I wouldn't give a damn. It would save me the hassle of doing it myself." Itachi frowned. "Humor me. If you didn't hate them, just tell me how corrupted it is." Naruto shrugged, not really caring. "Fine, maybe there's some corruption in power," he sarcastically answered. Itachi raised an eyebrow, nodding at his response. "You are only half right." He raised his finger. "Now my next question to you is why do they want you dead?" "I'm the bloody freaking Kyuubi. I think that says enough," Naruto coldly answered. His patience was running thin because Itachi was asking questions that served no relevance to his cause. Itachi nodded, approving of his answer. When the council couldn't turn you into a weapon, you became a liability for them. You became a danger to everything they stand for. They detested your existence. They were afraid of you, afraid of whom you are, afraid of what you are. When they couldn't turn you into their weapon, they had to terminate you. They couldn't let a loose cannon wander around. Why don't you tell me something that I don't already know? If this is all to your secret, Itachi, then I'm leaving. Do you remember the Uchiha massacre? Itachi quietly replied. This was a topic that he hasn't shared an outsider before, but it was finally time to pass on the story. Naruto quickly turned his attention towards Itachi, giving him an intense murderous glare. I'll take it as a yes. Itachi sat there, unfazed by the glare. He wasn't surprised with the look he received. With his little brother back in the village, Sasuke was a living, breathing reminder of the horrid events that took place that night. It was because of what you did that Sasuke turned out like this. Naruto erupted from his seat, his hand found its way onto Itachi's throat. Naruto slammed Itachi into a tree, his eyes beginning to change from blue to a bright red. Killing intent started flowing out from Naruto like a faucet. Itachi struggled against Naruto's grip as he stared into his eyes. It was almost as if Naruto was staring into his soul, just waiting for him to die so he can devour it. It was you, Naruto coldly whispered. That set forth the chain of events that forever changed Konoha. Itachi felt the pressure around his throat increasing. He figured Naruto would do something rational, but he never expected him to be like this. He was caught completely off guard by the attack. He did the only thing that could have calmed anyone down. Bring out the evidence. He reached behind his back and took out a scroll. Read it and then you will understand. Naruto grabbed the scroll away from Itachi and opened it with his left hand, not releasing the Uchiha. He recognized the scroll. It was a personal scroll from the files of Sarutobi, the former third Hokage. As Naruto skimmed through the scroll, his eyes widened as he went from top to bottom. He couldn't believe the material that was written on it. It had to be all lies, it has to be. He found his hand shaking. No, his entire body was shaking from the news. He dropped both Itachi and the scroll before falling to his knees. Itachi massaged his throat, feeling glad to be free from the man's grip. Do you understand now? We, the mighty Uchiha clan, was one of the most corrupted clans to have ever lived in Konoha. Bribery, assassination, anything you can name, we did it. We were the backbone of the Konoha police force. Who would dare to stand against us? We had the power to conquer Konoha if we so desired it. They were your family. Naruto, still shaken up. It went against everything that he was taught, everything that he knew. There was no way the Sandaime could have given the order to execute of the entire Uchiha clan. The kind old man who gave his life to protect the village and everyone in it. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to calm himself down. Why would he order something like this? He cared for everyone in this village like his own family. The Sandaime realized that a number of clans were being corrupted from within Konoha. If a plant developed a bad root, you would cut it off before it spreads, to keep the plant normal. In this case, I did exactly the same thing. Do you feel no remorse from your actions? Naruto quietly asked. He didn't even look at Itachi. He just stared straight at the ground, desperately searching for other possible reasons. Itachi shook his head. The order was given and it was clear that there couldn't be any survivors. And Sasuke? There had to be someone left that can carry this burden and to come after me for the sins that I have committed. I have chosen Sasuke for this task. Naruto finally picked his head up, his eyes returning back to their original color. Silence engulfed the area, both men unable to find the right words to say to each other. You're just like me. We gave everything to serve Konoha and in the end, we were just a mindless soldier who did as they were told but was cast aside when we were no longer needed. Itachi spoke up, trying to show some emotion but failed miserably. Naruto never looked up, his hands clenching to the ground. I'm nothing like you, Itachi. I'm sure of that. Was he just another Itachi? Of course there were some similarities, but he was different. He had to be. I see. I will take my leave, but remember, the next time we meet, it will be as enemies. Itachi took a step back before disappearing into the darkness of the forest. Arg! Naruto screamed into the air, wanting nothing more than to let this pain out. Birds flew away from the area, trying to get away from the deafening roar. Tsunade gripped the table with her bare hands, trying to prevent herself from lashing out against them. It has been 2 hours since they started this meeting and they were getting absolutely nowhere. For the last time, it is not his fault. She yelled. These people weren't budging an inch. She tried for hours convincing them that Naruto wasn't at fault. Tsunade-sama, with all due respect, the demon almost killed Danzo-san, wiped out about 20% of our forces, and caused the deaths of many civilians. How can we just let that slide? An elder spoke up. Tsunade growled in annoyance. They were just repeating and rephrasing the same thing over and over. If only there was some sign. Anything would do. Yoheim. She heard the door open and saw who was poking their head inside. Speak of the devil. He'll do just fine. Jiraiya. Tsunade nodded her head, granting him permission to enter the room. Several elders gasped around the room. You have the audacity to show your face in our presence after what you did? We should hang you for treason. Kaharu threatened. Jiraiya ignored the woman's threat. He received much better threats than that and compared to them, hers was childish. You have no control over me. I may be a ninja under the name of Konoha due to my contract, but nowhere in there does it state that I have to take orders from a group of ignorant fools. He faced the council. I am Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin, the title given to me by Hanzo himself. Both sides greeted each other with an intense glare. I would have let you guys die in cold blood if I had the chance. Jiraiya boasted, he wasn't afraid of them. These people have tasted the intoxicating essence of power and have become drunk with it. They are just not fit to be on the council anymore. Jiraiya, Tsunade called. He was making matters worse than it already is. If my student wanted, you guys would have been 10 feet under a long time ago. I truly trained quite a few monsters. Jiraiya rubbed his chin, thinking back to his past students. They were truly a work of art. Jiraiya, Tsunade raised her voice a little. If I had my way, all of you would be. Jiraiya, Tsunade shouted, slamming her hands on the table. Yes? Jiraiya looked at her in surprise. He had forgotten that he was in the room with her while he was boasting off his achievements. Getting back to business, she cleared her throat. Something had to be done here. The balance of power has already shifted. If she doesn't act fast enough, the council will grow more powerful than the Hokage itself. We have decided to put Uzumaki into the bingo books. Homura stated. He is too dangerous to be left free. Fine, rank a missing nin. She pulled out some paperwork, getting ready to write down the initial details. Rank SS. Hiyashi's voice spoke up. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade looked up, wondering if they heard the news right. Rank SS? Tsunade stuttered. Are you insane? Hiyashi stood up, knowing that it was his turn to explain the decision. He is classified as both a cage-level ninja and he also has the Kyuubi in him, the strongest of all demons. He deserves the rank of SS. He is better to us dead than alive. Other people started to join in, supporting Hiyashi of his idea. No, Tsunade calmly said. I refuse to do it. Jiraiya started applauding slowly. I am the Hokage of this village and I do not see him as a threat. You have elected me as Hokage, to serve and protect this village and I will continue to do it until the day I die. She finished her speech by folding her arms, glaring at each member. Jiraiya, throughout the speech, stood up and was clapping loudly. I don't think you understand the situation, Tsunade-sama. We are in a time of crisis, which means that your power and our power are one and the same. During this time, we will vote and decide on important issues that concerns itself with the village. Kaharu spoke up this time. All in favor of the decision. Please stand up. One by one, leaders of different clans started standing up. Tsunade stared at each of them in disbelief. Why? Naruto was friends with your children. He would never harm a single hair on them. It is because of that reason why we decided to do it, Hokage-sama. Inoichi quietly said. We have children that we want to protect, the children that we want to see succeed us. They are our future and we must protect it for their sake. Before Tsunade could open her mouth. Inoichi is right. We're sorry, Tsunade-sama, but it is only for the best. Shikaku spoke up, interrupting her. Tsunade felt her anger just about to burst. These people are insufferable, stubborn old fools were too afraid to let go of the old way. She slammed her fist down at the table, causing it to crack a little. Fine, do what you want with his ranking, but know this, I will not be held responsible for whatever ninjas you send after him. With that last statement, Tsunade walked out of the room, leaving them to think it over. Naruto, for the second time today, started to feel tears dripping down his face. I will, he sniffled. I will never be manipulated again. From this day forward, the world and everything else in it is dead to me. He got up slowly, taking deep breaths. From this day forward, I will never be a Konoha ninja again. He summoned his blade of wind, scratching out the leaf symbol on his Hite 8. May Kami-sama have mercy on the souls of those Konoha ninjas. He tied the Hite 8 on his arm. Because they will be as good as dead. He slowly walked away, disappearing into the forest. What am I going to do, Jiraiya? I just marked Naruto for death. Rank SS? That's just like saying, kill me now. Tsunade buried her head under her arms, feeling her heart breaking. I trained that Gakiheim. Don't worry. If anyone could survive this, it's that kid. Like you keep your eye on those hot springs, I bet. Tsunade muttered under her breath. Jiraiya laughed. See what you can do. I'm going to start looking for him now. Jiraiya opened the window and jumped away, leaving the Hokage to collect her own thoughts. A knock appeared on the door, disturbing Tsunade. What the hell is it now? She barked out. She wasn't in the mood for this. The new bingo book, Hokage-sama. A timid Chunin answered. She quickly took it and was flipping through the pages until she reached the name she was looking for. Her eyes widened when she read the rank. So those bastards actually went through with it. She looked up and still saw the Chunin standing there. What the hell are you waiting for? Get out of my sight. The Chunin quickly ran out of the room, scared because of all those rumors concerning the Hokage. The legendary Tsunade, the slug princess, capable of smashing mountains with her bare hands and the best medics that resides in Konoha. It was a death wish to get on her bad side. Tsunade watched as the Chunin ran out of the room, probably feeling scared. Shizune, get in here, the already pissed off woman screamed. Shizune immediately entered, already knowing what was tormenting her. Take this down. I want a team of trackers to go after Naruto immediately. I want to hear his side of the story. He is to be approached unharmed. Shizune jotted down the message, nodding her head as she took notes. Get me Kiba Inuzuka, Neji Hyuga and Shino Aburame. 2 out of the 3 are currently unavailable, Tsunade-sama. Why not? Tsunade raised her voice. Things were falling apart here. God, she missed her old gambling days. The days where all she had to worry about was debt collectors, not people's lives. Kiba and Neji are currently stated to be in critical condition from fighting with Naruto. Tsunade raised her eyebrow. At the same time? Yes. This was rather interesting. Naruto just took out 2 of her best Junin at the same time. Get me Hitaki Kakashi and Hinata Hyuga. Shizune looked through her list, nodding her head, indicating that they were available. Get to it. I want him found ASAP. Shizune hurried out of the room, knowing the state of anger Tsunade would have if things weren't done around here. Things are going accordingly to plan. A dark figure stood up from the chair smiling. And Danzo? The ninja hesitated before continuing. It looks like Naruto crippled him and his root unit before leaving Konoha. The man frowned. This wasn't good news. He needed Danzo for the next step. Damn that Jinchuriki. He became a wild card that was not to be underestimated. No matter. The wheels of fate is already turning. It is only a matter of time before Konoha crumbles under my power. The man started laughing. It wasn't the usual evil laugh from most villains. This one was more sinister, more diabolical. Well, what are you waiting for, Sasuke? Get out of my sight. As you wish, Shinrei-sama. Sasuke bowed and took his leave. Shinrei watched his apprentice's retreating form. Orochimaru was a fool to let you go. If it is power that you want, Sasuke, you better be careful for what you wish for. He started laughing once again before walking out of the room himself. Well, brat, you should have listened to me. Didn't I warn you that humans were greedy and ignorant? All you humans are just too pitiful, but it no longer matters. The ends will justify the means. A rough and deep voice echoed through Naruto's mind. Only the weak needs to rely on people. The strong only depends on themselves. Naruto scowled at the voice in his head. You dare to lecture me now? Where were you when I was getting ambushed by the village? He still haven't forgotten about that time when he was abandoned by the demon. I'm sorry. Did you want me to hold your hand while we waltz out of the village? In case you've forgotten, you have full access to my chakra at any given time. Stop your whining. I didn't train you so you can whine. Naruto felt the voice pounding inside his head, louder and harder each time. Enough preaching, Kyuubi. I need a place to lay low for a while. Any ideas? The voice chuckled. I hope you enjoy hot places. A calm breeze blew through the windows as the young cage relaxed in his office. The night was always a blessing compared to the scorching mid-afternoons. He sat in his office, staring at his own hands, his own rough hands. He has been thinking the same thing for the past couple of days now, thinking about the important question. He saw the calendar on the wall and noticed something. Today was the anniversary of the day when he was first instated as the cage. After all these years, he still had his doubts. Gaara sighed as he leaned into his chair. Was it really worth becoming a cage of a village? He didn't know anymore. Did he really think that by becoming the cage, everyone would no longer fear him? Whom was he kidding? Of course there was going to be some people who still saw him as a monster, but there were others that once saw him as a monster had changed their ways. Did they genuinely change their views, or did they change because they were afraid of him? Afraid of the power that he had. He just didn't know anymore. He only accepted this job from Baki because of him. Flashback. Why is it so important that you would risk your life to become Hokage? The man next to him stayed silent. People have asked him in the past and he always gave them the same answer. I want to be Hokage because it would mean acknowledgement. The two men sat under a shady tree playing shogi. It turned out that the both of them played shogi in their spare time. Shogi allowed them to take a break from reality, allowed them to forget the problems that they were constantly faced with. It was a while before either of them spoke again. We're different from most people, Gaara. We have been through too much hatred to give up now. By becoming Hokage of our respectful villages, it would show these narrow-minded villagers that we are no different from them. We are every bit human as they are. The man said while moving a piece up. Your move. Gaara stared at the board, pondering about his next move. He could move this piece over there and win the match, but this opponent wasn't just anyone. He was a similar being. Naruto Uzumaki. He held him in the highest respect. Gaara weighed his options, wondering if this was the best move or not. He decided to risk it. It was either do or die. No turning back now. Naruto sat there as he watched Gaara take his bait. Check. He heard the young cage speak. Watch the way people move, Gaara. There is always an ulterior motive, Gaara. Remember that. Naruto moved the piece before into a different position, ending the game. Check and mate. Gaara stared at the young man before him. He felt himself letting out a small chuckle. You are a strange one indeed, Naruto. Flashback end. It has been a while since they last communicated. His duties as cage have left him with no time to travel out of the country, much less to visit people important to him. The last time he visited Konoha was a year ago when he was on a diplomatic visit. Hello, Gaara. A cold voice spoke up. The cloak flapped against the breeze, hiding the person's physical features nicely. Gaara immediately turned his chair around, his sand already making their way towards the intruder. He narrowed his eyes, trying to recognize his assailant. Crippled, then ask questions later. That has always been his style. He raised his left hand, commanding the sand to surround him, intending of crushing his midnight visitor. I'm hurt that you don't remember me. He's fast. Gaara thought as the person disappeared, avoiding his sand. He turned his head around and was surprised to see the person standing in the light, revealing himself. It took him a few seconds to recognize his intruder. It wasn't hard to identify him. He only knew a few people that had blonde hair. Tamari was traveling to Konoha to visit her sorry excuse of a man boyfriend, and then there was Naruto. Why are you here? The Kagekazi asked, lowering his sand. It was rare for a ninja to show up in his office unannounced. Shouldn't you be in Konoha doing guard duty or something? I no longer have respect for those fools. Naruto coldly answered. They can rot in their own filth. Gaara noticed the tone difference in his friend. It sounded more distant, as if it was trying to cover up something. Something serious must have happened if Naruto showed up in his office near midnight with no explanation at all. Gaara also took note that Naruto's facial expression was different. His face no longer showed emotion except when the subject of Konoha was brought up. Anger and hatred could be seen from his eyes clearly for a split second before disappearing. He could only venture a guess about what happened. You have to tell me something, Naruto. I don't have to tell you anything. Naruto replied, snapping at Gaara. Realizing what he did, he apologized. Sorry, I'm just exhausted. He closed his eyes and massaged his temples. It has been a hectic week, running non-stop from Konoha all the way here. I just need a place to stay for one night. Gaara reluctantly gave in. It was unethical for a cage to house a missing nin, but this was his friend. His very first friend. Stay in my spare room. I'm sure you know where that is. Naruto nodded and walked towards the window. He stopped when a sand-shaped hand blocked his exit. Do not wake Matsui up. She had a long day. Naruto raised his eyebrow to question Gaara but decided not to when he saw that Gaara death-like glare. The sand slowly dropped to the ground when the two nodded their heads slightly, a silent agreement between men. Naruto disappeared in the night, leaving Gaara to follow behind. Next morning, Gaara stood outside the door, wondering if it was wise to knock or to just open. If he decided to just open the door, he might see something he didn't want to see, whereas if he knocked and awakened Naruto, he would probably end up with a Rasengan to the face. It was already 10 in the morning and Matsui would probably kill him for making a mess in the house. Naruto, I'm coming in, Gaara said out loud. He figured he would give the blonde a warning before he entered. He leaned against the door, trying to see if there was any movement going inside. Surprisingly, he heard nothing. Taking his chances, he slowly opened the door. He expected the blonde to be snoring or lying unconsciously on the bed. Given his appearance from last night, he half expected him to be knocked out for at least 2 days. Naruto? No answer. Gaara looked around the room. It was still clean, as there was no sign of a person ever living here. Naruto, are you in here? He asked once more. He looked around in the room, noting that the bed has not been touched but there was something by the table. By closer examination, there was a note left behind that was intended for him. Gaara, staying here would cause your village trouble. We can't have a missing nin cause trouble for you now. I'll deal with these problems myself. Gaara stared hard at the piece of paper, reading it over twice. That fool. He cursed out loud. Why must he always play the hero that takes on everyone else's problem? That was one thing he'll never understand about him. Why couldn't he just care about himself before others? Was that just too hard to understand? Is something the matter, Gaara-kun? Matsui appeared at the door, looking worried. It was unlike Gaara to just curse without reason. Nothing, Matsui. Nothing at all. Gaara replied as he crumpled up the paper. If looks could burn, that paper would have been in hell by now. 2 weeks later, the doors opened in a hurry, revealing an anxious Kankuro. Gaara, I think you should take a look at this. He waved a small booklet in his hands. Gaara continued to do his paperwork, ignoring his brother's presence. This had to be out by today and he'll be damned if he was late to dinner again. Not now. Get out. But I seriously think you should. Kankuro protested. Gaara looked up and glared at him. Fine. Have it your way. Kankuro threw the booklet at his younger brother, knowing that without Tamari or Matsui here, Gaara wouldn't listen to anyone. He was so focused on his job that he sometimes forget to eat lunch. Gaara removed the booklet from his face and looked at it. The new bingo book? He looked at Kankuro, waiting for him to further explain. Are you hinting that I should quit my day job and make a career hunting these people? Kankuro rolled his eyes and shook his head. Turn to the last page. Gaara flipped to the last page, his eyes widened from surprise. What the hell is this? This has got to be a mistake. Is this some kind of joke? He threw the booklet down, anger written across his face. On the last page, it was a face that they were all too familiarized with. Naruto Uzumaki. Known affiliates, The Silent Storm. Rank SS missing nin, to be killed on sight. Personal info. Extremely dangerous and should not approach alone. Wanted for the murder and endangerment of Konoha residents. What the hell is this trash? Gaara angrily shouted, demanding an answer. The sand started gathering around Gaara, responding to their owner's intentions. Was this the reason why he left? No, it must be something else. Naruto wouldn't kill anyone, much less those villagers. Kankuro backed away, actually fearing his younger brother in years. In all his life, he has never seen Gaara this enraged. Not even back during the Chunin exams when his seal was still unstable. I want all trades, alliances, resources, anything remotely connected to Konoha in my office within 5 minutes. Gaara growled. If this was some kind of joke, then by all means, he'll show them what it is like to joke with the case cage. Kankuro nodded his head as he left the room, rushing to get the requested items. No one else wanted to be Gaara's secretary and he was the only one stuck doing it. As he thought back to how angry Gaara was, he decided to increase his pace, fearing that this could only lead to trouble. Only a complete idiot would mess with Gaara right now. 1 week later, Shizune checked her watch as she waited outside the doors. If she just slightly pressed her ear against the door, she could hear almost everything that was going on in the room. Shizune decided against it. She would have to trust that whatever they're talking about inside would be relevant. Why must she kid herself? Whenever those two get together, they usually first end up drinking sake before Tsunade-sama loses her temper from something perverted that Jiraiya-sama would say. It was almost like a formula between the two. One can't happen without the other. Get out, get out, an angry voice shouted. The doors quickly opened as Jiraiya ducked under a flying saucer. Okay, no need to get angry, he shouted back. He quickly closed the door, avoiding a head-on collision with an empty sake bottle. Did you comment about her ass again? Jiraiya turned around and released an inconspicuous laughter, knowing that he was caught red-handed. What, Shizune-chan? I'm appalled. How could you think that of me? Shizune shook her head. It was like teaching an old dog new tricks. They never learn from their mistakes. Yeah, the man finally admitted. He had nothing to fear. Shizune wouldn't hurt a person that was like an uncle figure to her. Shizune held the files closer to her chest and stared at the door. She's been depressed since he left, hasn't she? Yeah, couldn't you do anything to cheer her up? Yeah, Shizune felt the last of her nerves twitching. Could you say anything else besides yeah? Yeah, that's it. She had it with this perverted man. No woman could ever have the patience to talk normally with him. She quickly kicked him in the groin before allowing herself into the room. Jiraiya was left outside on the floor, groaning in pain as he tended to his family jewels. Tsunade-sama, are you okay? Shizune asked, concerned for her mentor's well-being. She noticed that Tsunade hasn't been drinking a lot lately and people have claimed to see her actually finishing the paperwork. That itself was frightening. Did I do the right thing? Tsunade looked up, confusion written on her face. Was my actions justified? Ever since he left, she began doubting her actions, wondering if what she had done was right or wrong. Every day, she felt her heart breaking into more and more pieces as she wondered what that boy was up to. I'll watch over that boy. That's what Jiraiya said while trying to cheer her up. Ha, what a laugh. That perverted leech didn't even leave the village to look for him. All he did was stay constantly at her side. She was thankful for that, but she'll never tell. I don't think you're a terrible person, Tsunade-sama. I believe that you did it for the village. You saved his life by granting him his freedom. Shizune replied. He wouldn't want you to be like this. Ever since he left, her mentor was drowning herself in work, believing that it was the only way she could take her mind off her mistake. Even Jiraiya had to take extreme measures, insulting and being more perverted than usual. It has worked to some extent as she begun to show some life, but it was still far from what she used to be. I don't think you'll see it this way, Tsunade said as she rested her chin on her arms. And now Suna has cut off all ties with Konoha. They didn't even give me a goddamn good reason. I'm sure everything will work itself out. Shizune replied. She saw an empty spot on the desk and put some more paperwork down. No one had expected it to happen so fast. Suna sent a messenger bird with a letter personally addressed to the Hokage stating that they were removing all ties with Konoha, ending their alliance, and threatened that if they find any Konoha nin in the village, they are to be executed immediately. It was an understatement to say that the council was outraged. They were furious, demanding to go to war. It took every ounce of persuasiveness from Tsunade to stop it from happening. They just didn't have enough manpower to march straight into the desert and make war with the cage. Tsunade groaned as she noticed that her stack of paperwork just increased by 5 inches within the last 10 minutes. It was just unheard of. Shizune giggled as she watched the frustration and anger appear one by one on Tsunade's face. Don't kill the papers now. There are some important documents in there. Screw this. Tsunade took one look at the paperwork and made a face. She got up and stretched her arms, feeling her body coming alive. It's too nice of a day to be spent cooped up in this stuffy office. She made her way towards the door and motioned for Shizune to accompany her. Shizune gladly accepted the invitation. It was really a nice day, and maybe it was a new day for a new beginning. As months passed, the village began to recuperate, rebuilding itself from the damage. Villagers were once again happy, knowing that their children were safe. The entire military division of Konoha began to reevaluate their standards, making sure that nothing like this would happen again. Konoha had also begun to offer more training to ninjas, allow them to prepare for any type of situation. Missions were still being given and completed at the usual rate. Even Kakashi had begun to show up on time, which surprised his team. Sasuke and Sakura were still going out but were taking it one step at a time. Neither one wanted to rush and destroy the relationship that they worked so hard to build up on. Sakura had to sometimes watch Sasuke in case he overdid himself with training. Ever since he was found beaten on the ground, he had taken it on himself to increase his training regimen. No one knows what happened that day, but they could only guess. Team 10 with their sensei, Asuma Sarutobi, continued to negotiate with Suna on a discreet note. Their correspondent? Tamari herself. She was in love with her pineapple-shaped boyfriend, but she was too proud to let him know. He was the only reason she ever came back to this place. The group was working on a plan to somehow reunite Suna and Konoha, but as their plan goes, they weren't making much progress. Guy's team was always Guy's team. Lee and Neji was out of the hospital but was still in no shape to do missions. They were taken off the active duty list and were recovering surely but slowly. That explosion left them scarred for life, a reminder that they were lucky to be alive. Tenten was moved over to Kurenai's team to replace Kiba because he was taken off the active duty list as well. In many ways, Naruto's departure led to many changes in the village. Whether it may be good or bad, it still showed them that they were too relaxed and a single man alone was able to cripple half the village's military power. Danzo seemingly disappeared after leaving the temporary Konoha hospital. No one has seen hair or hide of Danzo since the incident, but word on the street was that he was still alive and plotting revenge. 6 months later, Tsunade-sama, Shizune shouted as she ran into the room, disrupting Tsunade from her daily nap. Things began to return to normal after a few months and Tsunade no longer blamed herself for Naruto's departure. Things were slowly returning back to the way they once were, with Tsunade sleeping and ignoring the paperwork. Huh? What? Tsunade groggily answered. She wiped the drool off her mouth and slowly sat up, wondering what was so urgent that she had to be disturbed. Team Kakashi and Asuma have found the entrance to the Akatsuki base. They are currently engaging Uchiha Itachi and Kisame Hoshigaki in battle. What? Tsunade jumped up, knocking over a pile of paper. This was big news. Akatsuki was on the move lately and no one knew why. Where is the base located? Shizune quickly checked her report, scanning the portions quickly. Kakashi failed to mention their present location. She continued to skim through the report. Tsunade cursed the cycloptic man, damning him and his lazy ways. Tell them to regroup. There must be a reason why those two were the only ones there. Tsunade could feel it in her gut. Something bad was brewing out there and she didn't like it. Shizune didn't bother to interrupt. She could hear the urgency coming from her voice. She was only like this when she truly believed it was a crisis. She quickly excused herself and walked out of the room to do what was asked of her. Akatsuki base. You're really pitiful, Sasuke. You had several teachers and yet you're still weak. Itachi said as he brought his elbow down on Sasuke's left leg, attempting to break the knee. I shouldn't have spared you back then. Sasuke jumped up and performed a roundhouse kick with his other leg, trying to get Itachi to release his hold. Itachi ducked under the kick and forcefully threw him towards Sakura. Sakura braced herself to catch Sasuke, keeping the damage done to them to a minimum. You come in here and expect to kill me at your level? I'm very disappointed. You don't know anything about me. Sasuke retorted as he pulled himself off Sakura, making sure she was okay before turning his attention back to Itachi. He held out his left arm and took a deep breath. Chidori! He shouted out while rushing forward. The sounds of chirping echoed throughout the cave. Die Itachi! Sasuke yelled out. He ran straight to Itachi, feeling that today was the day that he can finally have his revenge. Itachi stood there, unfazed by the murderous intent produced by Sasuke. He merely responded by raising his finger, pointing it at Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, wait! Sakura saw the tiny movement by Itachi and jumped in, realizing that Itachi was planning something. Sakura no! Kakashi shouted. From the corner of his eye, he could see Sakura ignoring his warning. The copy ninja was currently preoccupied with Kisame, as a stand-in replacement for Shikamaru, who was the first to be targeted by the missing nin. With Kisame, that tickled but fun time is over. Get off me! Kisame laughed at the pathetic attempt made by the Konoha nin. There was no way a weakling like that could stop him. They have been fighting for 20 minutes now and he was having too much fun to kill them. The Akatsuki member proceeded to remove the man, but to his surprise, he found himself struggling to move his own body. What the hell? It takes two to do teamwork. Not one. Shikamaru stepped into Kisami's range of vision, his hands by his side. He would allow the missing nin to witness the technique that was going to be his downfall. Kisami's eyes widened, surprised to see him still standing. I thought I killed you. Nope, you just missed my vitals. Shikamaru wiped the blood off from the near-fatal wound, allowing Kisame to see it for himself. With Choji's strength combined with my Kagemane, the unstoppable becomes stoppable. Kisame gritted his teeth. He didn't like this. He struggled to move his Samahata forward, pushing against the shadows with all his might. Shikamaru grunted as he tried his best to stop the man from moving. Do it now. He couldn't hold it long. Maybe 20 seconds more before he collapses from exhaustion. Kakashi took the hint and jumped over Shikamaru, his hands going through a set of seals at a fast pace. Kakashi gripped his right hand, feeling the flow of chakra going through it. He ran over towards Kisame, with his right arm resembling the Chidori. Kisame saw the attack coming and made an attempt to raise his hand, having the Samahata in front of him to block the attack. Not this time. I've been waiting a long time for this day. From the corner of Kisami's eye, he could see Asuma appearing in front of him. With a quick slash from the man, Kisame cried out in pain as he watched the man sever his right hand off, leaving himself defenseless against the attack. Asuma took a puff of smoke, holding on to this trench knives tightly. He stood there waiting for Kakashi to finish it. Reikuri! Kakashi shouted, extending his arm forward, hitting Kisame above the heart. Shikamaru gasped for air as he fell to the ground, feeling drained. Ino hurried to his side, quickly starting treatment for his wounds. Why didn't you just let me heal you before? Her hands were already starting the healing jutsu, feeling glad that all those long hours spent training with Tsunade-sama was finally paying off. Shikamaru let out a soft chuckle. It was just part of the plan. He felt body reaching out for him, asking for a rest. He couldn't keep his eyes opened any longer and soon passed out from exhaustion. Ino sat there, concentrating on healing his wound, but inside her mind, she was proud of him for holding on this long. Kisame was a man who was known to have a high pain tolerance, but today he discovered a completely new meaning to pain. The wounds he received at the hands of these insects were intolerable. First, he lost his dominant right hand and he was barely alive. Damn these insects to hell. He ignored the pain and delivered a hard left elbow to the back of Choji's, rendering him unconscious. With fluid motion, he took a step forward and caught Kakashi by the throat, gripping it tightly. I'll take your death as payment for my hand. Kisame snarled. He had underestimated his opponents and it has cost him big time. He had to get them now before it was too late. Kakashi struggled a bit against Kisame, smirking before he disappeared in a puff of smoke, revealing a log in Kisami's procession. Kisame was caught off guard by the kawarimi that he failed to notice Asuma appearing right behind the log, his hands on the dragon seal. Kaden. Heizekisho. He blew out a lingering cloud of smoke in front of Kisame, trapping him within the cloud. Arg. Kisame took several steps, trying to escape from the scorching smoke. He ignored the pain in his arms, trying to get the smoke out of his face. His cloak was already torn to pieces from the earlier assault. His mind finally registered that the entire fight, from beginning to end, was just a setup for this moment. Asuma, with every ounce of chakra left in him, extended his wind element on his weapon before slicing Kisame in half, ultimately ending his life and ninja career. Asuma walked up to Kakashi, who was barely standing from fighting the S-rank ninja. It took the four of them to bring down this beast. He wondered if they had enough left over to fight Itachi. And then there was two. Kakashi lazily answered as he collapsed in his friend's arm. With Itachi. Sasuke had a satisfied look on his face when he found his arm piercing through Itachi's heart, smirking as he watched Itachi cough out blood, but his expression turned to shock when the Itachi in front of him disappeared into birds. This is how you do it, little brother. Sasuke turned around, surprised to see Itachi racing up to him with a Chidori. How the hell did he put me in a genjutsu? Sasuke shook off that thought, immediately preparing the required hand seals for another Chidori. Bring it, Itachi. He ran towards Itachi, both Uchihas arching their arm back, gaining momentum. Chidori. Both of them cried out. The light was intensified as Chidori met Chidori head-on, each one struggling for dominance. Ugh, this has to be a joke. Our levels cannot be this goddamn far apart. Sasuke struggled to keep Itachi at bay, making sure he wasn't gaining any leverage. He felt his legs giving out as Itachi continued to push, hands locked in combat. You lose once more, Sasuke. Itachi stood a step forward, using his body weight to gain an advantage. When he saw Sasuke struggling to push back, Itachi immediately withdrew his hands, catching his little brother off balance. Shit. Sasuke felt himself slipping as Itachi released his hand, canceling his own Chidori. Sasuke tilted his head up, to see Itachi smirking down on him. It can't end this way. Itachi quickly rammed his knee against Sasuke's jaw, sending the boy backwards. He saw the perfect moment and struck his arm out. The black-colored Chidori aimed straight for the heart. The Shinigami will not be claiming Sasuke-kun's soul today, Itachi. Sasuke turned his head slightly to see Sakura standing there, his eyes detecting chakra gathering in her fist. Take this. Sakura slammed her knuckle into the ground, causing a shockwave that knocked Sasuke off his feet, saving his life. Itachi had a look of surprise on his face when he saw Sasuke drop to the ground in front of him, just missing his attack. Sasuke saw his window of opportunity and took this chance to counter. He regained his balance on his feet and landed an uppercut on Itachi. The elder Uchiha took a few steps back, caught off guard from the sudden attack. Itachi wiped the blood off his mouth and smirked. Good try, but it's still futile. Itachi's regular Sharingan changed into the Mangekyo and began to spin. As he began calling forth one of the Mangekyo's technique, something stopped him from moving his body. For a missing nin, you're quite careless. Ino whispered as she appeared behind him. Itachi had no time to react when he felt something stabbing him in the back. Itachi felt his body becoming numb as Ino removed the syringe from Itachi's back. She held Itachi's arm out, preventing him from doing any jutsu. Now Sasuke. Ino and Sakura both shouted. They both knew how important it was for Sasuke to kill his older brother. Ever since he was a genin, he had been waiting for this day, living in hate and sorrow just to kill him, and now the chance has finally arrived. Today it all ends, Itachi. Sasuke held out his left arm and took slow breaths. Reikuri. Sasuke yelled out, feeling the power cruising through his veins. This was the improved version of the Chidori, twice the killing power, twice the damage. He had worked hard to get it to his stage, and now, he can finally use it for what it was originally intended for, assassination. He dashed towards his older brother, his eyes guiding his body every step along the way. Itachi closed his eyes, knowing that his death was imminent. There was no use denying it. He had no regrets. He did what was asked of him and nothing more. He felt his heart yearning for him to keep his eyes open, to see his younger brother kill him. Today you will finally pay for what you did 13 years ago. Sasuke took a leap into the air, wanting to finally feel free from the burden he was given to carry. While he was in flight, he saw no emotions in Itachi's eyes, which pissed him off even more. Even now you still show no remorse for the massacre. He thrust his arm forward, preparing the final judgment for his brother. In a sudden moment, a cloaked figure that stood by the sidelines watching decided to finally make his move. Within a blink of an eye, the figure disappeared from the sidelines and intercepted Sasuke's attack with a kick to the ribs, sending him away from Itachi. Sasuke was sent skidding towards the ground, his left arm accidentally touching the floor, resulting in an explosion. Everyone stood there, unsure of what was going on. The figure stood in front of Itachi, his hands inside his cloak. Sasuke slowly got up on his feet, furious at the newcomer's arrival. Who the hell are you? He spat out. He had so many chances to kill Itachi and every one of them were interrupted. The figure ignored him as he carefully scanned the crowd. 1, 2, 4 people left. He counted to himself. He turned his attention to the man behind him, finding the scene quite amusing. Itachi, it seems that our positions are now reversed. Itachi raised his eyebrow, recognizing the voice. He tried to speak but found nothing coming out of his mouth. No response? It must have been a pretty strong drug to keep you from talking. If you're with Itachi, then you are my enemy as well. Sasuke disappeared from his position, adrenaline rushing through his veins. He was moving faster than before, but he paid no attention. His mind set on killing the people in front of him. With his Mangekyo Sharingan activated, he was already behind his brother and this mysterious figure. Nothing will stand in my way. It is my destiny to avenge my clan. Sasuke quickly performed another Reikiri and thrust his arm forward, intending of ending the fight with one blow. The figure took his right hand out of the cloak and grabbed Sasuke's left hand, nullifying the attack. Sasuke looked appalled. He couldn't believe that this person stopped his attack with just a right hand. It was just unbelievable. Are you always this emotional? Why don't you just be a good dog and play dead? Sakura, Ino and Asuma stared at the mysterious person, each wondering who he was. One thing was for sure, he was strong enough to cancel out the Reikiri with one hand. Who the hell are you? Sasuke demanded. He tried to break free from the man's grip but was surprised at his strength. There was no way he could budge from it. The figure frowned before answering him. I'm what you call the calm before the storm. He lowered the hand and applied more pressure, crushing Sasuke's hand. Sasuke screamed in agony as his hand became useless. I'm sorry. Did that hurt? The man then slammed his fist into Sasuke's ribs, breaking several of them. Sasuke dropped to the floor, his body screaming out for mercy. He glared at the man, his eyes glowing with hatred. Sasuke-kun! Sakura screamed. She charged in blindly and was preparing a punch that could rival her sensei's. The man turned his attention to Sakura, ignoring Sasuke for the time being. He watched as Sakura charged in with her hand arched back, intending to smash it in his face. The mysterious figure stood his ground, stopped Sakura's enhanced punch with just an open palm. Everyone winced from the sound of her fist smashing against the man's palm. A painful scream could be heard as Sakura pulled her fist back, several bones broken and cracked in her hand. She sat on the floor, tightly holding her hands while glaring at the man. It's been a long time. Sakura. The figure removed his hood, revealing his blonde hair and blue eyes. Sakura's eyes widened as she recognized the figure. Naruto? Everyone stood there shocked. Shock was just an understatement. No one had expected the blonde to show up here out of all the other possible places. Naruto stood there, his face deprived of any emotion as he looked into Itachi's eyes. My debt to you is now repaid, Itachi. A life for a life. Why must you always be in my way, Naruto? Sasuke screamed. It was always Naruto that stood between him and his goals. There was never a time when he had no competition. Sasuke leapt forward, his right hand on the Kusanagi. He brought it down with a diagonal slash on Naruto, aiming to cut off his head. Naruto stepped forward and caught the blade between his fingers, forcing Sasuke to lower the sword. If you weren't worth Itachi's time, you are certainly not worth mine. Just as Naruto was about to say something else, Ino, who stayed hidden behind Itachi, reached for another syringe and jumped behind Naruto, aiming to inject him with the same thing she did with Itachi. Naruto noticed her small figure just in time and turned around, smashing his elbow into Sasuke's face, causing the younger Uchiha to relinquish his hold over the sword. With the sword in his hand, he dodged the stab from the needle by sidestepping the girl twice and ended up behind Ino. Naruto held the sharp sword to Ino's throat, calm breaths coming from him. It's been a long time, Ino. It seems the years have been kind to you. Screw you, demon. Ino sneered. Naruto turned his attention to the others, seeing as how Kakashi was unconscious and Asuma had his hands on his favorite trench knives. If you would kindly let me leave here with Itachi, I can promise to spare your student's life. It's your call now. Asuma gritted his teeth. It was a tough decision. There was no guarantee what he would do to Ino and he was down 4 men. He tried searching for more answers but there was nothing more he could do. There was no way he could beat Naruto in his current state. Naruto noticed that Asuma was hesitating for a bit, a grin slowly formed on his face. It's not that hard, Asuma. Let me go in exchange for her life, or else I'll send her body back in a coffin. Naruto informed the man. Konoha will greatly mourn the loss of the Yamanaka heir. Asuma, in all his years of service, was left with no other option but to follow the orders of his enemy. Take Itachi and leave. The words painfully left his mouth, already regretting those words. No, a voice shouted. Sasuke struggled painfully to get back on his feet, preparing to what looks like a final Reikiri. You would risk her life to complete your revenge? Naruto asked. One lost would mean the deaths of several dangerous criminals. Sakura shouted. She was doing everything in her power to not rush straight into the situation. If they could execute this attack, then Ino's death would not be in vain. Ino stared at her best friend straight in the eyes. She couldn't believe what was happening. All the things that they'd been through, and this was how Sakura had chose to end their friendship. Don't worry, Ino. I swear to you we'll get him and avenge your death. No, not this way. I don't want it this way. Ino shouted back. Tears began filling her eyes. She didn't want to die yet. She still haven't done all the things she wanted. She wanted a family, a nice house where her kids can grow up and play. All those dreams that she had started to fade away. Reikuri. Sasuke charged in, aiming to kill everyone that stood in his path. He had put all his chakra into this final attack. Naruto stood there, shaking his head. This generation of ninjas that Konoha raised turned out to be quite a disappointment, hasn't it, Asuma-san? Asuma looked bewildered as he saw Naruto disappeared out of Sasuke's way, causing him to collide into Sakura, sending them both into the ground once more. He ignored the loud explosion caused by the attack and scanned the area, his eyes finally finding Naruto standing by the doorway, holding Ino in his arms with a cage bushin holding onto Itachi. The deal's off, Asuma-san. I will be sending her back in a body bag. Naruto coldly stated. Wait, Asuma shouted at Naruto. If it meant saving his student's life, he would gladly give up his to save hers. He had already seen most of the world, but Ino hasn't. Before he could do anything else, Naruto disappeared into the forest, taking with him his student and Itachi. 10 miles elsewhere, the Naruto clone dropped Itachi off from his shoulder, earning the Uchiha a rough landing with the ground. The original Naruto carefully put Ino near a tree, tying her up. He splashed some water over Ino's face, awakening her. You will tell me what you did to Itachi. Ino opened her eyes, surprised to find herself staring into the face of her captor. Why should I help you? She spat out venomously. Naruto glared at her. Even in this type of situation, you're still a bitch. Don't you know when you've already lost? Naruto pressed a kunai near her throat, allowing her to feel the coldness of the weapon. They left you for dead. You might as well make yourself useful to me before I end your pitiful life. Ino felt her fears rising from the bottom of her stomach. She was actually scared of this man, scared that he would actually kill her in cold blood. It was no longer the Naruto she knew. This was the voice of a cold-blooded killer. Are you going to talk? Naruto pressed the weapon in, drawing a little blood. Or do I have to dig a little deeper? It was an experimental paralyzing serum. The effects should have worn off by now. Please don't kill me. Ino answered quickly, fear taking over her body. Naruto heard some noise behind him and turned his head to see Itachi moving. The Uchiha began to move his body, able to regain feeling over his body once more. A bit theatrical back there, don't you think, Naruto-kun? Naruto shrugged. Whatever works, Itachi. The Uchiha nodded. They have lost track of the boy since he disappeared after destroying half of Konoha's military force. The Kyuubi container was somehow able to avoid their radar, which made tracking him insanely difficult. Why did you save me? Naruto blinked twice, surprised at the question. Nevertheless, he had a purpose for saving his life. I've come to take you up on that offer. Itachi thought it over before answering. In his mind, he was actually impressed with the strength that the Kyuubi container displayed. It would seem like he greatly improved during his travels. We'll be glad to have you. The Uchiha responded, knowing what offer the blonde was talking about. With the loss of his partner, Naruto Uzumaki might make a great addition to the team. Naruto turned his attention to the whimpering Ino, who was sitting there looking scared. Naruto walked up to her and stared into her eyes. I could end your life right here, but I won't. He looked around, seeing if there was anyone nearby. He took out a kunai and held it tightly, a sign that most people do before stabbing or cutting something. Time began to slow down for Ino as she watched Naruto come closer and closer, fearing the moment until he actually reached her. Her mind wandered back to Naruto Uzumaki, the enigma of Konoha. Ino couldn't remember spending that much time with the boy because of what everyone said. She could feel his power radiating off him like the sun giving off warmth. It happened so quickly. In a flash, Naruto just disappeared from their lives and reappeared at the trial to just disappear once more. Now the man was standing in front of her, probably going to end her life. If she could go back in time to change all this, she would make sure this wouldn't have happened. Ino saw Naruto bringing his arms closer and she closed her eyes, anticipating the pain to come. She had gotten cut, stabbed and sliced before, and each time, it still frightened her. She opened them a second later when she felt her chains become undone. Never in a million years did she accept him to do this. If it was the other way around, she would have done the same thing. Ino looked up and met Naruto's eyes, wondering why he didn't kill her. Why? She whispered out. Naruto stared into her eyes, wondering if she was just stupid or curious. A storm doesn't always hit everything, he replied, leaving her with a cryptic message. Naruto turned around and took off with Itachi towards an unknown direction, leaving her alone in the forest. Near the border of K's no Kuni. Hold on, Itachi suddenly answered. They spent hours traveling towards their destination point, but it was mostly done in silence. There wasn't any need for conversation between them. These were two men that spent most of their life alone and isolated from everyone else. They have learned to survive on their own, shunned out by the place they once called home. They were labeled as monsters because of their past, the past which no one can escape but only accept. Uchiha Itachi, the man that single-handedly wiped out his clan in one night, and Uzumaki Naruto, the Kyuubi container himself. Even if they had conversed, there would be nothing to talk about because these were men of action, not men of words. Itachi strayed away from the path and landed on the ground, putting a temporarily stop to their journey. We're going back. Naruto landed right next to him, wondering why they were stopping. Is that really necessary? His voice filled with annoyance. Itachi noticed the tone and gave him an icy glare. What does it matter to you? He bitterly replied. Naruto shrugged. I rather not waste my time idling around for useless things. It was pointless to argue at this point. He needed Itachi to get there, and if the Uchiha weren't ready to take him there, he would have to play his game for a while longer. He took the initiative and led the way back, his mind focused on only one thing. The joining. Itachi sighed, shaking his head. I hope the leader was right about you. Itachi followed pursuit, hoping to catch up with Naruto before he left him behind. With Ino, it was a complete understatement to say that Ino was mad. She was beyond mad. Not even the wraith of the devil himself could match what she was feeling right now. As she made her way back to Konoha, she was destroying everything in her path. Branches, trees, whatever she could take her frustrations out on. Her day went from bad to worse in a matter of minutes. She continued to curse her day as the scenes replayed themselves over and over in her head. It was unbelievable how well choreographed everyone was. It was as if they all had a part in this grand scheme to make her life miserable. It was no one's fault but mine that I was captured as a hostage, but Ino said out loud. This was a trick that she picked up from Tenten. By saying these thoughts out loud, it allowed her to freely gather her thoughts and approach them in a logical and scientific way. It was also her way of keeping herself calm. She's been known to throw crazy tantrums according to Shikamaru. I should have never accepted this mission. I knew I should have stayed in Konoha. A village is defined by how many missions they receive. The more missions that the village receives, the better their reputation is. Missions are also a way to judge ninjas. The more missions that they do, the higher their status is. A ninja's life is only worth as much as their missions. There was really no guarantee to what the occupation of a ninja would hold, whether they would live to see tomorrow or not. It varies due to the dangerous nature of this job. To throw away my life like some sort of useless trash, that is their fault. Ino released a small growl, gripping her knuckles tightly. It pissed her off when the person who she considered her best friend, her sister, was nothing more than a facade. Ah! Ino yelled out as she smashed her fist into the tree. She winced at the pain but shrugged it off, seeing as how the pain was also relieving her at the moment. Damn Sakura? Ino whispered. Ino took a step forward, preparing to continue with her traveling back home, but when she took that step, she felt herself losing focus for a second. Ino staggered back, pressing her palm to her forehead. Whoa, I must be losing it. An image of Sakura appeared in front of her, a smirk on her face. That must be it. I'm pushing my body too much and this is its way of telling me to take it easy. Ino reasoned with herself as she continued to stare at the image of Sakura that was fixated in front of her. She looked towards another direction but Sakura was there as well. Ino growled in annoyance. Why am I seeing her face now? That's simple, Ino pig. You can't stand the fact that I'm stronger than you and I'm also dating Sasuke-kun. You're just jealous that you can't be like me. A voice similar to Sakura's whispered. Ino felt her body quiver from the voice. After hours of traveling alone, Hearing the voice of the person she wanted to get revenge on wasn't exactly her main concern. "Sakura, come out here, forehead girl," Ino shouted. She took a glance around her surroundings, searching for any signs of a genjutsu. The Sakura image reappeared in front of her, smirking at her once more. "Why?" Ino charged forward, her fist arched back. "Why the hell are you smirking?" Ino cried out as she slammed her fist through Sakura's face. The image slowly faded, leaving the girl completely confused. She had just destroyed a tree, but their Sakura was nowhere to be found. Feeling exhausted, Ino dropped to the ground, leaning against the broken tree. "I seriously need to get back to Konoha," she whispered into the wind, praying that she'll make it back in one piece. "With Itachi and Naruto, why are we going back?" Naruto inquired. He already knew the answer, but he didn't know for sure. There was some uncertainty in the air, and he hated that. It was just one of those rules that men make for themselves. For him, there were a few rules that he lived by, and it has gotten him through life so far. Never trust anybody and never assume anything. Those were his top 2 rules. "I need to bury his body," Itachi answered. Not many people knew this, but they had a bond between them. A bond that was between brothers. They have been partners ever since he first joined the organization, and it would be dishonorable to leave his friend like that. "I don't see that as a valid reason for going back. He's dead. There's nothing we can do. We should be moving." Before Naruto could finish that sentence, he was slammed into a tree, Itachi's hand tightly gripping his throat. Itachi stared into the man's eyes, his Mangekyo Sharingan spinning rapidly. "This is not about what you want to do. This is about what I want to do," Itachi coldly exclaimed. "Open your damn eyes, Itachi. He died because he was weak. The weak has no place among the strong. He might be a partner, even a friend to you, but to me, he was nothing." Naruto retorted in an equally cold tone. Both men stared at each other, neither moving a muscle. Itachi finally relinquished his hold over Naruto, dropping him to the ground. "If you ever disrespect Kisame again, I will kill you. I would like to see you try Uchiha-san," Naruto whispered, putting emphasis on Itachi's clan name. Tension began to rise up between the two, each glaring at each other. Itachi stood near Naruto, his figure looming over the man. "Don't try me, Uzumaki, or I'll show you what a real Uchiha can do. Your brother already tried proving that. Will there be a difference between you and him? I surely don't see it," Naruto answered, mocking Itachi. "My weak brother is blinded by his ambitions. Do not compare him to me," Itachi replied. He started to walk off into the cave alone, leaving Naruto outside. Naruto sat there and frowned. A dead man is still a dead man no matter how you look at it. His eyes growing red for a second. "There is no such thing as a good man in this world, Itachi," Naruto said while staring into the cave. In Konoha 5 p.m. Tsunade let out a small yawn, stretching her arms. It was that time of day and the paperwork was just high enough to be her pillow. Just as she was about to put her head down, Shizune ran into the room, letting the doors bang against the wall as it opened. "Tsunade-sama." Tsunade let out a small groan. There goes her afternoon nap. After a long day of paperwork and drinking sake, she deserved a nap. "What is it now, Shizune?" Unless half of Konoha was under attack by Akatsuki and demons, there was no way she was leaving her office. "They're back, Tsunade-sama." Tsunade raised her eyebrow, not completely sure what she was talking about. "Who's back?" Team 7 and 10. Tsunade sat up. The news had her undivided attention. This was a lot better than doing some lousy paperwork. "Well, go get them in here. I have some questions for them." Shizune hesitated for a second. "They're currently in the hospital at the moment, Tsunade-sama. They ran into some problems while encountering Itachi and Kisame." Wondering what happened, Tsunade jumped out of her seat and made a dash for the door. "Come on, don't just stand there. We have to get down there," she barked out. Shizune quickly nodded her head and ran after her. "With Ino. My god, I didn't think we'd traveled that far out from Konoha." Ino mentally cursed. She was a long way off from her destination. There was nothing but trees and more trees. It was already getting dark and she was deciding if she should set up camp or not. Is getting my revenge this important that it's driving me to keep going? I wonder what kept him going. Ino's expression suddenly changed. Somehow, images of him wandered into her mind. She wasn't even thinking about it. She started laughing as she rested against a tree. I must be going crazy. She thought back to the times she spent with the hyperactive blonde. Surprisingly, no matter how hard she tried, she had no memories of ever spending time with the blonde. Is this truly how much I know about Naruto? She asked herself. She couldn't remember anything about him, his likes and dislikes, his favorite hobbies or even his birthday. She quickly dismissed those negative thoughts out of her head, wanting questions that could trigger a memory that she'd forgotten. There must be something about him that I knew. She thought back a bit further. She got her answer when she remembered something from their genin days. Flashback. Naruto, what do you plan on doing when you become older? Iruka asked. It was nearing the end of the exams and he always did this exercise. He wanted to ask the kids what their dreams and encourage them to follow it. He wanted to play a role in these kids' life, knowing that they might not have much of a life after they graduate. I'm going to be the greatest Hokage there ever was. Naruto shouted. He jumped on his desk and pointed towards the window. I will surpass the Yondaime and then everyone will see that I'm better than he is. The class burst out laughing, knowing that he was the class's dead last. A loser who couldn't achieve that dream no matter how hard he tried. You're a loser, Naruto. There's no way you could become Hokage. Why don't I become Hokage for you? I have a better chance than you. Heck, even Choji could become Hokage before you. Kiba shouted. Ino snorted. Get real, Kiba. The only person who could become Hokage is Sasuke-kun. She looked at her Sasuke-kun, the boy of her affections during her younger days. Naruto only smiled. That Teme couldn't hold a candle to my powers, Ino-chan. You're better off leaving him for me. Ino laughed once more. Get real, Naruto. Get real. Flashback end. Ino sighed. She really had no relevant information about him. She only had bits and pieces of information. Besides the fact that there was only a handful of blondes in the village. She had nothing. She did know that he was going out with Sakura for a while, but after they broke up, he just disappeared from their lives completely. Whenever she had hung out with the rest of the Rookie 9, Naruto was never there. No one even bothered to bring up his name, nor did they seem to care he was missing. A bit of guilt raced through her heart. Was it our fault he turned out like this? Would it have made a difference if one person cared? She tried to picture herself in his place, but it was difficult being Naruto. She couldn't imagine just being him. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that she never really tried to understand Naruto, and because of that, she almost died by his hands. She shuddered at that thought. His cold blue eyes still engraved in her memories. Will you truly be happy when you get your revenge, Naruto? Is revenge the only path that a person that's been betrayed can take? She asked. There was no answer, not even a breeze of the night wind. She chuckled at herself. Of course no one was going to answer her. There was no one here in the first place. She looked up at the stars, searching for some sort of answer. What made you turn out this way, Naruto? Would it have been different if someone cared? As Ino continued back on her journey, it was by coincidence she missed a shooting star that happened to pass by. It was as if someone was listening to her. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade stood outside the door, catching her breath before entering. She couldn't just enter the room looking out of breath. She was the Hokage, she had an image to uphold. If they found out that she got tired from running here, she would lose respect from her fellow ninjas. She smiled as she heard laughing and talking inside. This was a good sign that everything was okay. As she opened the door, everyone continued to talk, not noticing her standing there. She let out a small cough, letting everyone know that she was there. I see that you're all okay. Shisho. Sakura replied while everyone else respectfully called her Hokage-sama. Tsunade nodded her head and entered the room with Shizune. I see that you're all back in one piece, with the exceptions of a few. She looked around the room. Sakura had bandages around her hand while Sasuke had them on his upper body. Shikamaru was sitting on a chair next to Choji's bed, keeping him company. Asuma was standing next to Kakashi, smoking a cigarette in a forbidden zone. As Tsunade looked around the room, she noticed that someone was missing. Where's that Yamanaka girl? Asuma took one last puff of his cigarette before smothering it on the floor. It was his duty to tell her. She was on his team since their genin days, and as her Junin instructor, he will make sure that her death did not go in vain. She's gone, Hokage-sama. What do you mean she's gone? She couldn't have disappeared during a mission. Tsunade replied. It was against protocol to run away from a mission. That itself could sentence Ino to death if she was found by Anbu. Noticing that no one responded to her question, she looked around, everyone still with their heads down, avoiding her gaze. She didn't understand the silent treatment. There has to be something they weren't telling her. He took her. Asuma finally answered. That was the truth. No matter how much he tried to hide it, there was no use denying the fact that she was gone. Tsunade looked at the elder Sarutobi, trying to understand the meaning behind that sentence. We ran into Naruto Hokage-sama. Kakashi spoke up. Naruto? He's alive? Tsunade managed to stutter out. What was he doing there? Is he okay? No. I'll tell her. It was my fault things turned out like this. Asuma spoke up, interrupting Kakashi. You might want to sit down for this. It's a long story. Tsunade nodded, pulling up a chair. As Asuma retold their mission report in full details, Tsunade went into shock. She couldn't believe that Naruto had a part in this. He wouldn't do this. She tried to convince herself otherwise. There was no way Naruto was the one who attacked them. Why would he do this? She demanded. Shisho, it's true. Sakura sighed and lowered her head. He was probably working with Akatsuki. That's the only reason why he would show up there. Sakura fiddled with her broken hand, feeling a slight pain. Don't worry Hokage-sama, we'll get him next time. Sasuke confidently replied, wrapping his hands around Sakura's waist. Yeah? Sakura answered, leaning closer into his embrace. Tsunade felt a major migraine coming on. Get some rest and then I want you all in my office first thing tomorrow morning. Tsunade got up and left the room, giving them time to recuperate. Next morning 10 a.m. Excuse me Tsunade-sama? Sakura is here to see you. Tsunade looked up from her paperwork to her apprentice standing by the door. Tsunade nodded her head, acknowledging the request. Thank you Shizune. Shizune closed the door after Sakura entered, ensuring that the things that they were about to be discussing was not interrupted. Tsunade looked around, wondering what happened to the others. She wanted all of them in her office, not just one. Where are the others? They were just too exhausted to come. Sakura answered. After that mission, everyone deserved a day off. It had been hard on them all, losing Ino and all. Tsunade mumbled something about lazy ninjas before pointing to the seat next to Shizune. Sit. We have a lot to talk about. She cleared all the paperwork just for today. There was some part of the mission report that seemed fabricated. There was no way she could bring herself to the fact that Naruto had really committed these crimes. It was just too unbelievable. With Ino, I'm almost there, Ino told herself. She could almost taste it, she was almost home. As she got closer, she saw the new gates of Konoha. Tsunade-sama had invested a lot of time and effort into remaking these gates. She didn't understand why the Hokage would do something like that, but Shino once told her it served as a memorial to the ninjas that lost their lives during that fateful day. As she approached the front gate, she saw a young genin team composed of 2 girls and a boy leaving Konoha. She couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu as they walked past her. These girls were just like her when she first started, inexperienced, and from the looks that they were giving that boy, a fangirl. Oh well, they'll soon learn that life isn't all that glamorous. Ino thought. Her personal life hasn't changed much except that she was no longer interested in Sasuke. She preferred not to be dating and put her social life on hold due to her fellowship with Ibiki. When it came to dating, she had just a few qualities that she looked for in a man: handsome, strong, and knows what he wants in life. She wasn't going to settle for anything less. Her mind somehow conjured up an image of Naruto staring at her with his cold blue eyes. As she stared back into his blue eyes, she found that she was no longer afraid of them but was mesmerized by it. There was something in those eyes that captivated her. She immediately dismissed her thoughts and headed for the Hokage Tower. She had a score to settle with a certain pink-headed girl. Hell is about to be frozen over, Ino thought as she ran through the streets of Konoha. With Itachi and Naruto, we travel all night to come here and you're still not ready to bury him? You're wasting my time here, Itachi. Naruto coldly stated. Sitting against a rock was not his ideal place to be for the past hour. His patience was already running low and he was tempted with just killing Itachi here and now. I'll be done when I'm done, Itachi replied with his eyes closed. He was currently in a silent prayer, paying his respects for his fallen comrade. I don't like it when people keep me waiting, Itachi. Do not make me wait, Naruto warned before disappearing in a puff of smoke, leaving the Uchiha alone. Konoha Hokage Tower. So let me get this straight. You're saying that Naruto was the cause of all this? Tsunade asked, repeating the information one more time. She was having a hard time believing that the blonde would go to such lengths to do something like this. That's what really happened, Hokage-sama. Sakura answered. She still remembered the time his hollow eyes stared into her when they met. She shuddered at that memory. Before anyone else could speak, the doors blew open, revealing a familiar face. Ino, you're alive, Sakura squealed. She jumped up from her seat and ran to her friend. We all thought you were dead. She attempted to hug the blonde, but when she took a step closer, she found herself lying on the ground, unsure of what just happened. Don't touch me right now, Sakura. The only thing preventing me from killing you right now is the Hokage. Ino threatened. Ino, what is the meaning of this? Tsunade said, surprised to see such behavior happening in front of her. Ino walked away from Sakura and stood in front of Tsunade, her hands folded against her chest. It was obvious from her appearance that she probably ran all night to return home. I figure from your voice that you have a hard time believing a word that's coming out of her mouth? When Tsunade didn't say anything, Ino took it as a signal to continue. I did not die by Naruto's hand, as you can see. If you can overlook her exaggerated story, some parts of it are true. Tsunade nodded her head to continue, wondering where this was going. Then enlightened me as to which part was true. She put her chin above her hands, waiting for the story. Ino, Sakura asked. She was more shocked about the change in her best friend than the story itself. Sure, they were rivals, but they were always friends first. As Sakura looked Ino over, she could tell that there was something different about her. How are you here? We thought he killed you. Sakura asked. She was really curious. Naruto looked pretty damn serious when he made that threat. Something must have happened between them if he just let her go like that. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys that I'm not dead. Ino sneered. She ignored the shocked look on Sakura's face as she continued on with her story. Did she ever tell you how she made that decision that almost left me for dead? Tsunade narrowed her eyes and stared at Sakura, wondering what Ino was talking about. What decision did she make? The decision that almost cost me my life. Ino yelled out. All that frustration and anger that she had built out was coming out at once. She figured that my death would mean something if Sasuke killed the both of them along with me. Tsunade dropped her jaw, shocked beyond anything she would have imagined from the new information. Sakura, is this true? Tsunade stared at her apprentice. Sakura didn't look ashamed at her actions. She stared right back at Ino, her glare matching Ino's glare. I did what was right. We all know about the sacrifices that ninjas make. It would have been better to see them dead than alive. Then why didn't you do it? Ino retorted. Because you were the one who got caught. Sakura yelled out. In an instant, what became a friendly chat erupted into a full-blown argument. The two girls were so into their shouting that they forgot that they were in the presence of the Hokage. Insults and harsh name-calling were thrown, and unfortunately for the spectators, it wasn't a fun fight to watch. Girls, Tsunade yelled out, getting their attention. Both of you have issues right now, and personally, I don't give a damn. You will settle this yourselves, but in either case, Sakura was justified in making the correct decision if you could see it as a correct decision. Tsunade closed her eyes, trying to make her headache go away. Not everything you learn is always the best course of action. She sat back down and pulled out a fresh sheet of paperwork. Get out before I decide to punish the both of you. Ino and Sakura quickly took the hint and left the room. Shizune sat there shaking her head in disappointment. You went easy on them. Tsunade looked up at her. Why are you still here? Don't you have some paperwork to do? Shizune frowned and disappeared, leaving her alone in the office. Tsunade sighed as everyone left the room. She stared at the piece of paper that she just yanked out. Criminal sightings. She read out loud. Ironic, Tsunade thought. They were discussing criminals, and this was the title of the bill she just yanked out. Just what have you done now, Naruto? Tsunade quickly crumpled the piece of paper and tossed it away. She sighed. She had a feeling that today was going to be a long day. With Ino and Sakura, both girls walked out of the office, arguing to the point where blood was ready to be spilled. Sakura was all up in Ino's face, her finger poking Ino on the chest. What the hell was that, Ino pig? Sakura shouted. You didn't have to go and do that. Ino snorted. What makes your life more interesting than mine? You had no right to make that decision. You know what, Ino? I'm tired of this. Let's settle this once and for all. Sakura challenged. She was tired of Ino's constant whining. She was going to prove to her that she was the best once and for all. She was going to prove to Ino that she wasn't the same girl that needed help from bullies all those years ago. Ino smirked, glad that Sakura finally got a good idea. At least now, I know there's something up there besides empty space. Training Field 9. You don't know how long I've been waiting for this, Sakura, Ino said as she started stretching. During her lonely journey back to Konoha, she had a lot of time to think about the fight that she wanted with Sakura. This was going to calm her anger and she wasn't going to hold anything back. Sakura cracked her knuckles. You know you can't beat me. I wasn't the Hokage's apprentice for nothing. And I'm just the underprivileged girl that didn't get that special training. Ah, poor me, Ino replied, unimpressed by Sakura's status. Both girls stood about 10 feet away from each other, waiting for a signal that would begin their fateful match. Ino slipped into her usual stance, her right foot placed forward a bit. Sakura stood there, her glove on her hand. Since her right hand was still damaged, she didn't bother to put on a glove for her right. A single leaf flew into the field, twisting and twirling in the wind. As soon as the leaf touched the ground, both girls disappeared from sight. They exchanged blows at a fast pace, neither of them was thinking about anything else but winning the watch. Ino ducked under from a left-hand hook and twisted her body around, countering it with a hard left kick towards the ribs. Sakura saw her attack miss and quickly jumped away, avoiding the kick. As soon as Sakura landed, she flipped through some hand seals before slamming them on the ground. Doden. Dorio Dango. Sakura dug her hands into the earth before pulling out a chunk of the earth. Take this, Ino. She chucked it towards Ino, wondering what she would do now. Ino's eyes widened as she saw a huge boulder coming towards her. She jumped away, avoiding the attack. You're so slow, Sakura whispered into Ino's ear. Ino turned around and performed a roundhouse kick in midair but found that no one was there. Where are you aiming? Ino saw Sakura standing on top of the boulder and threw a kunai towards her. The kunai went through Sakura and embedded itself on it. The truth soon hit Ino as she realized that she was trapped in a genjutsu. Almost had me, Sakura. She held up her hands to her chest. Kai, she cried out, dispelling the illusion. She looked around for Sakura, trying to see where she was. The dust was still in the air, allowing Sakura to hide anywhere and buy time to formulate a plan. Near Training Field 9, why are we here again, Kiba? Shikamaru yawned. He didn't appreciate being dragged out of his bed so early in the morning. Stop your whining, Shikamaru. Akamaru and I saw Ino and Sakura heading towards this training field in a rush. I think they're going to fight. Lee shook his head. Kiba-san, why would they fight? They're best friends. Before anyone could answer him, a loud eruption occurred and more fighting could be heard. Never mind, Lee quickly said as he ran towards the fighting. Everyone else ran after him, not wanting to miss the fight. Training Field 9, Futon. Daitopa, Ino cried out as she finished her hand seals. Soon, winds came in from all directions, blowing everything away. She had channeled more chakra than usual for this technique. She knew Sakura was hiding somewhere, planning, but she was not going to have the chance. Take this, Sakura shouted out as she appeared from behind Ino. Ino didn't have time to prepare for the impact as she felt Sakura landed a left hook on her stomach. Ino was sent flying hard into the tree, causing it to split in half. She coughed up some blood as she pushed herself to get back up. You lost, Ino. Give up before I beat you down to an inch of your life, Sakura said confidently. She walked over to Ino and kicked her in the ribs, sending her former friend into the ground. Ino slowly got up, taking deep breaths. She was lucky that she somehow used the momentum of Sakura's kick and threw herself away, avoiding the attack. I was never the obedient ninja type of girl. Ino held her hands together and smirked. I'm sure you remember this one. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Sakura narrowed her eyes as she saw 5 Inos standing in front of her. She gripped her left hand tightly and charged in. She went up to the first clone and went to knock it out of existence. Doden. Doro Gashi, Ino whispered as she quickly put her hands to the ground. An earth wall shot up from the ground, but that didn't stop Sakura from shattering the wall. When Sakura broke through the wall, she was surprised to see Ino standing in front of her with her hands in an oval shape. Sakura immediately recognized the seal and ran for it, but several of Ino's clone rose up from the ground, grabbing her ankles and prevented her from moving. Shintenshin no Jutsu, Ino yelled. Sakura watched helplessly as she was struck by the jutsu. Ino felt her spirit leaving her body and entering Sakura. From there, Ino had a sinister smirk on her face. Let's see how pain you can withstand. Ino raised her right hand and Sakura's body responded. You there? Ino pointed to a clone. Squeeze this hand as hard as you can. The clone nodded and started to squeeze Sakura's already damaged hand. Ah! Ino and Sakura both screamed. The pain from just squeezing it was unbearable, but it must be done. By forcing Sakura's hand to be injured, she can further extract her revenge. Ino endured the pain for another minute before switching back to her body. As soon as she entered her original body, she felt herself breathing heavily and feeling some leftover pain. She glanced towards Sakura, who managed to destroy the clone holding her hand. Noticing that Sakura was preoccupied with her damaged hand, Ino leapt into the air and landed behind Sakura. She took advantage of Sakura's pain and smashed her elbow into Sakura's face, causing her to be distorted by the pain. Seeing as Sakura was too distorted to defend herself, Ino continued her assault, throwing a fury of punches towards her chest before grabbing her right hand again. Sakura groaned from the pain and tried to fight back, but Ino was currently applying pressure to her right hand. She gritted her teeth as she felt herself being thrown into the air. By the time she realized what was going on, several of Ino's clones were already up in the air waiting for her. A clone came up behind her and executed a roundhouse kick to her back, sending her from one clone and straight into another. The brutal assault continued until two of the clones combined their kick and sent her spiraling towards the ground. Sakura let out a small cry of pain as she hit the ground hard, causing it to split apart from the force. Ino jumped into the air, using one of her clones as leverage. She found herself hovering above Sakura long enough for her to execute her final move. This is where I prove that I'm goddamn better than you. Ino came down hard on Sakura. The impact from her attack caused the ground to split apart even more. QQ Danchaku, Ino whispered as time suddenly stood still. She could feel her body weight applied more force on Sakura's body. She could hear her muscles becoming more and more tense with each passing second. Sakura released a bone-chilling scream as she felt Ino's attack connect with her stomach. Her body was experiencing a whole new meaning of pain. It was just indescribable. Death was a far better option than lying here in agony. Ino slowly removed her knee from Sakura's stomach, shifting her weight from her left side to the right. Sakura screamed even more as Ino pressed her weight on her right hand, crushing the remaining bones in her hand. Sakura gritted her teeth as she kept the tears from falling out. The pain was excruciating to the point where it was unbearable. Sakura mustered all the chakra that she get and threw Ino off her. Ino flipped in the air and landed on her feet, waiting for Sakura to get up. Come, I'm not done with you yet. Ino stood there, her left hand held out, taunting her to get up. Who do you think is going to win? Kiba randomly spoke up. Everyone was silent. They were too focused with watching the fight. They're both at their limits right now. Shino replied, speculating the girls. This is where their paths end. One will fall while the other will walk. Whatever the outcome, there will be changes. Both of the girls stood there, feeling exhausted from the match. Sakura wiped the blood off her mouth before clutching her right hand. I could have you thrown in jail for doing this to me, Ino. The number. Cut the crap, Sakura. Ino spoke up, interrupting Sakura. In a fight, do you really think ninjas follow the rules? Do you think Naruto followed the damn rules when he let me live? Sakura became furious at Ino's behavior. Rules is what sets us apart from criminals like Naruto. It is because of people like him that makes the rest of us look bad. Ino glared at her former friend. Well, I remember a certain someone that already disobeyed a rule. What was it again? Something about deserting their teammates? Ino threw out. Shikamaru sighed. This is so troublesome. Why can't women just leave their emotions at the door? Care to repeat that sentence, Shikamaru-kun? A soft but angry voice spoke up. Shikamaru didn't need to turn around to recognize the voice. Ah, I didn't mean it like that, Hinata. He knew better than to face an angry Hyuga. Before Shikamaru could explain his answer, Kiba eagerly yelled out thoughts. To hell with the rules. Finish it. In the past, there were no laws, no regulations that were established to govern ninjas. It was back during the era of the Shoden Hokage where he decided that it was barbaric to conduct themselves without honor, without proper laws. It was for that purpose that the ninja handbook was created. Both girls released a battle cry and charged head-on, determined to end this with one final blow. Sakura charged in with her left hand arched back, preparing to slam it into Ino's face. Ino saw the fist coming and ducked. There was no way that she could match Sakura in strength, and she knew it. She had to time her counterattack at the right moment or else she would lose this match. When Sakura got within Ino's striking range, she saw the moment that she was waiting for. Now, Ino opened her fist and let the palm slide harmlessly off her skin, allowing Ino to respond and counter with several quick jabs to her ribs before ending it up with a fierce uppercut. Sakura felt herself losing consciousness as she dropped to the ground. "I hope that someday, you'll open your eyes," Ino stated as she was breathing heavily. Before anyone could run up and congratulate them on the great fight, Ino disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving everyone to wonder what was going on. "Sakura-san, are you okay?" Lee frantically asked. Tenten put a hand on Lee's shoulder, assuring the young Junin that the girl was okay. Lee tried to lift her up but Shino beat him to it. "You're still injured. You shouldn't stress yourself over this." Lee sighed and allowed Shino to carry Sakura to the hospital. "That was a boring fight," Shikamaru lazily remarked. He didn't bother going with them to the hospital. It was just too much of a hassle. This was far better than a stuffy room. With Ino ran away from the training ground at high speeds, her mind frantically searching for a place where she can be alone. She needed time to think about all this. As she ran deeper into the woods, she was taking so many twists and turns that she didn't really pay attention to where she was going and found herself in a field full of flowers. There were so many different kinds of flowers there, each unique and different. The sight before her took her breath away. As she walked slowly into the field, being careful about not destroying the floral, she soon forgot her worries as she began to identify the flowers. When she was a child, she spent most of her afternoons at her parents' flower shop, and because of that, she was able to name most of the flowers. Growing up in a flower shop taught her to appreciate the beauty of these flowers and the meanings that they symbolize. She let out a small smile as she sat down, tears starting to flow down her cheeks. "Is this what I wanted? Revenge is supposed to make a person feel good, but why do I feel so miserable?" Ino asked herself. Even though she got her revenge, there was that feeling of regret inside of her. No matter how much she told herself that Sakura deserved it, the pain wouldn't go away. It just stayed in her heart, making Ino feel guilty. "I guess all those stories about revenge being sweet was utter bullshit," Ino said, tears forming in her eyes. Pretty soon, they made their way down her cheeks and onto the ground. She didn't understand why she was crying. Ninjas don't cry. The only time they cry was over a death of a friend. A family member. That was the only time allowed to cry. That was in the rules. Rule number 34, a ninja must never show their emotions. Ino quietly laughed to herself. "I sound like Sakura now." She gazed up into the sky, the great cloudy skies. It almost seemed like the heavens were also crying with her, sharing her pains. She couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't truly alone. With Naruto and Itachi, Itachi walked out of the cave, his mind and body both exhausted. After spending almost 3 hours in there, it would make anyone exhausted. He noticed that the area around the cave was still in one piece, which meant that Naruto was nowhere to be found. He activated his Sharingan and looked around, trying to pick up any faint traces of chakra residue. He took a few steps forward, trying to locate his wayward partner. "I told you I hate waiting. You must not care about who you're dealing with," a cold voice whispered from behind Itachi. Itachi felt his body frozen with fear. He couldn't even turn his head around. "Was I injected with the drug again?" Itachi thought. He didn't feel anything pricking him on his back. He tried to move his mouth to respond, but the muscles were tightly contracted together, refusing to move. "I didn't inject you with anything," the voice answered. Did he just read my mind? Itachi thought, but shook off that ridiculous thought. There was no way that telepathy exists in this world. It was just impossible. The Sharingan comes very close, but there is no true bloodline that allows a person to read thoughts. It was just impossible. "Do you want to play a game?" Naruto spoke again, but this time his voice seemed to be very distant. Itachi could feel his body responding to the voice, as if it was afraid of him. It wasn't from the fact that he couldn't move that scared him. It was the fact that his body was refusing to move. Naruto stepped out from the shadows, his cloak hiding most of his physical features. Naruto nodded his head once and Itachi felt his body returning to normal. He moved his fingers around, glad that his body was in his control once more. "What did you do to me?" Itachi asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Naruto turned his head, ignoring the elder Uchiha. "I'm not obligated to tell you anything." The blonde started to walk away, missing the glare that Itachi gave him. With Ino. It was already nightfall when Ino finally returned to her apartment. She didn't plan on staying out that late anyway. It wasn't because she wasn't allowed to stay out so late, but rather, the thought of going back to an empty apartment didn't exactly thrill her. Spending her time in that field of flowers was just the thing that she needed. She was surrounded by flowers, the one thing that reminded her of her parents. When she was sitting there by herself, she was able to meditate in peace, regain the inner Ino. They say that jewelry and flowers are a girl's best friend, but when you can't afford any of those, just give a girl her personal space and she'll do just fine. As soon as she entered her apartment, she immediately headed straight for the bathroom. All she wanted to do is just soak in there until her skin was wrinkly, not that she would do that anyway. Her apartment wasn't small, it was just the opposite. It was a 2-bedroom apartment fitted with everything that she could need. She never bothered to get a roommate, she just wanted to be alone. She stifled a quiet moan as she entered the bathtub, the warm, comfortable feeling that she missed while she was out completing her missions. She felt her troubles just washing away and everything in the world was okay. Almost nothing could tear her away. Almost nothing except that blonde. Damn that evil, irritating blonde. Whenever she was alone, she couldn't stop picturing him in her mind. It was almost like an obsession. She didn't know what it was about him. Was it because of his status, his power, or his presence? Ino sighed. She didn't know what it was. There was just something about him that made him from everyone else, something that made him different. Whatever it was making her think about him and she didn't like it. She remembered the last day that she ever saw of him. It was that day where everything literally went to hell. She remembered him talking about some speech about friends, but she paid him no attention. She just went along with the flow, throwing insults at the boy, and was blinded by the rational judgment to logically do an investigation herself. Her mentor, Ibiki, would be so disappointed at her. "Damn, I'm no better than the rest of them," Ino said as she dunked her head into the water. She was just like the villagers, treating him like the plague after finding out what he was. She screamed underwater, wanting to release her guilty conscience. She didn't want to feel this way anymore, and to make it worse, he had spared her life. That was the thing that pissed her off the most. She wouldn't be like this if he had killed her, but then again, maybe killing her wasn't his motive. There was just too many unanswered questions. Tomorrow morning, Ino briskly walked into the Hokage tower, feeling nervous. Having practicing the speech that she was going to give the Hokage, she was a bit jumpy. She walked up to the front desk, greeting Shizune. "Good morning, Shizune-san. Is Tsunade-sama in right now?" Shizune turned around and stared at the almost closed door. She put her ear next to the door and listened to it. No snoring. Good, it meant that she was awake. "Go right ahead, Ino," Shizune replied with a smile. Ino thanked her and walked in. Tsunade was reading a newspaper when Ino walked in, not really noticing her presence. Ino knocked on the door lightly, hoping to catch her attention. "Excuse me, Hokage-sama?" "Yes?" Tsunade looked up and saw the young Yamanaka standing at her door. "What can I do for you today?" I was wondering if I could get some time off." Ino answered. Tsunade choked on her tea, surprised by her request. "What? I want some time off." Ino repeated. She could understand just how hard it is to let one of their best take time off, but she needed this. If she doesn't take this time off, she might end up doing something that she will regret later on. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, carefully studying the girl. "And what are your reasons for taking time off?" "This is just something that I had to do." Ino fiddled around with her fingers, feeling nervous as the Hokage stared her down. She's been here plenty of times reporting mission reports, but this was different. She was asking the Hokage about something personal here. Tsunade shook her head. "That isn't a good enough reason. You must have a personal objective here. Why don't you tell me what's going on and I'll see what I can do for you." Ino hesitated for a bit, unsure if she should tell her. She spent the entire night preparing for this, but here she was, standing in front of Tsunade, speechless, unable to remember any words. "I just want some time away from my friends." "Is this about what happened on your last mission?" Tsunade inquired. She saw the look in Ino's eyes, the pain that she was trying to mask. It was normal that everyone experiences hurt sometime in their life, but it is how they heal from it that sets them apart from everyone else. Hi, Ino slowly answered. She couldn't be around her friends right now. She wasn't ready to forgive them yet. It was just too painful. Tsunade sighed. 6 months, Ino. I'm giving you 6 months to do whatever that you must do, but after that, I'm assigning you back on the active duty list. Do you understand me? Ino nodded her head eagerly. She was expecting 2 months at max, but 6 months was even better. Thank you, Hokage-sama. She bowed her head and left the room. Tsunade watched the girl leave her office. She had a similar look that Naruto had in his eyes when she saw him without his mask. It was that tiny spark of hurt. The human heart had a limit on how much pain it can handle. Too much and the person will crack. If only your parents were still alive, Ino. She couldn't think more about this issue. Ino has to deal with her problems by herself. She was a strong girl, she should be able to do it. With Naruto. Naruto was walking around the forest until he felt a familiar presence coming up from behind. Did you finally catch up? Naruto inquired. He didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. Itachi walked up next to him, not even out of breath. You slowed down, he replied in a monotone voice. I don't remember the way. Naruto stated. Itachi turned his head, as if he was searching for something. It doesn't matter. We're here. Naruto frowned. They were in the middle of a forest. There was nothing around here but trees and more trees. They weren't even near Kase no Kuni. Here's where? Itachi pointed towards a grove of vines was growing between two large trees. The base. Naruto looked around and saw nothing that even remotely resembled a base. If you're wasting my time, Itachi, I swear I will. You'll what? Itachi spoke up, staring Naruto in the eye. Kill me? You can't kill me. You need me. Naruto glared back. I've been known to defy rumors. Naruto walked up for a closer examination, noticing that it was a genjutsu covering the area. A very large one, in fact. Itachi approached the vines and touched it. The ring on his finger started to light up. The vines themselves started to split apart, granting them entrance to a hidden cave. Naruto walked in, amazed at the formation. There was no way he would have figured out the location of the base by himself. It was just too well hidden. Greetings, Uzumaki-san. A cold voice greeted him. Naruto tilted his head upwards a bit, his eyes staring at the figure standing on a statue. He narrowed his eyes as he carefully studied the figure. It looks like those rumors of your death was greatly exaggerated pain.
That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share and do comments.